Welcome, fellow wanderer of the Wasteland, to a comprehensive journey through every twisted creation that stalks the irradiated ruins of post-war America. Tonight, we explore the complete bestiary of the Fallout universe. From the smallest radroach scuttling through abandoned buildings, to the towering behemoths that shake the earth with every step. This is the definitive chronicle of evolution perverted, nature transformed, and humanity's legacy written in scales, claws, and radioactive flesh. So settle in, make yourself comfortable, and let your mind drift as we catalogue every creature, great and small, that calls the Wasteland home. Welcome to the fundamental truth that underlies every twisted creature stalking the irradiated ruins of post-war America, that life, in its desperate determination to survive, will reshape itself in ways both beautiful and horrifying when confronted with forces beyond its evolutionary experience. Tonight, we delve deep into the scientific foundations that transformed familiar animals into the nightmarish menagerie that now calls the Wasteland home, exploring the twin forces of radiation and viral manipulation that rewrote the very code of life itself. The story of mutation begins not with the Great War's atomic fire, but in the laboratories and research facilities of pre-war America, where scientists played God with the building blocks of existence itself. In sterile chambers beneath corporate headquarters and military installations, researchers sought to unlock the secrets of forced evolution, to bend nature's will to human ambition, never imagining that their work would survive the civilization that created it to reshape an entire world. The science of mutation in the Fallout universe operates on principles both familiar and fantastical, grounded in real biological processes, but amplified to impossible degrees by the unique conditions of post-nuclear America. Radiation, that invisible destroyer of cellular integrity, becomes in the Wasteland not merely an agent of death but a catalyst for transformation, breaking down the genetic barriers that normally prevent species from crossing evolutionary boundaries that took millions of years to establish. At the molecular level, radiation accomplishes its transformative work through the systematic destruction and reconstruction of DNA, the fundamental blueprint that governs every aspect of an organism's development and function. High-energy particles tear through cellular structures with indiscriminate violence, shattering the delicate chemical bonds that hold genetic information in stable configurations, creating opportunities for mutations that would be impossible under normal circumstances. The key to understanding Wasteland mutations lies in recognizing that most radiation exposure in the real world is fatal, precisely because it damages DNA faster than cellular repair mechanisms can compensate. But the unique radioactive environment of post-war America, enriched by specific isotopes and atmospheric conditions created by nuclear warfare, operates at levels that somehow permit survival while guaranteeing transformation, creating a narrow window where death and evolution compete for dominance over living tissue. This delicate balance between destruction and adaptation manifests differently across various types of organisms, with factors like size, metabolism, reproductive rate, and pre-existing genetic diversity determining whether exposure results in death, beneficial mutation, or something far more horrifying. Insects, with their rapid generation cycles and simple cellular structures, adapt quickly to radioactive environments, often growing to enormous sizes as radiation disrupts the biological limiters that normally constrain their growth throughout their brief lifespans. Mammals, with their complex organ systems and extended development periods, face greater challenges in adapting to radioactive environments. But when successful mutations do occur, they tend to be more dramatic and permanent than those seen in simpler organisms. The two-headed brahmin that wander across the Wasteland represent not a single mutation, but a cascade of genetic changes that somehow preserved viability, while fundamentally altering the basic body plan that had remained stable for millions of years of bovine evolution. But radiation alone cannot account for the more extreme mutations encountered throughout the wasteland, particularly those that seem to violate basic principles of biology and physics. For these aberrations, we must turn to humanity's greatest contribution to post-war evolution, the forced evolutionary virus, a pre-war biological weapon that treats genetic codes not as sacred texts, but as rough drafts ready for extensive editing. The FEV represents the pinnacle of pre-war genetic engineering, a synthetic organism designed to rewrite the fundamental instructions that govern cellular development and reproduction. Unlike radiation, which destroys genetic material somewhat randomly, the FEV operates with purpose and intelligence, seeking out specific genetic sequences and replacing them with alternatives drawn from a vast library of biological possibilities stored within its own complex structure, created initially by West Tech Corporation under contract with the United States military. The FEV was intended as the ultimate biological weapon, a virus that could transform enemy populations into something no longer recognizably human while leaving infrastructure intact for later occupation. The virus accomplished this goal through a sophisticated process of genetic analysis and replacement, scanning host DNA for markers of humanity and systematically overwriting them with alternatives that preserved consciousness and basic physiology, while fundamentally altering physical form and capability. The original FEV strains developed at the Mariposa military base were designed with specific military applications in mind, creating larger, stronger, more resilient organisms capable of surviving in environments that would kill normal humans, while retaining enough intelligence to follow complex orders and operate advanced equipment. These early experiments produced the first generation of super mutants, beings that represented humanity's attempt to transcend its own biological limitations through viral engineering rather than natural evolution. But the FEV's true potential was realized not through deliberate application, but through accidental release and environmental contamination. When the Great War destroyed the containment facilities that held the virus, it escaped into the broader ecosystem, where it began interacting with radiation, environmental toxins, and the genetic material of countless species in combinations that its creators had never anticipated or intended. The synergistic effects of FEV exposure combined with radiation created evolutionary pressures unlike anything in Earth's history, accelerating adaptive processes that normally required thousands of generations into timeframes measured in years or even months. Species that had remained stable for millions of years suddenly found their genetic codes open to radical modification, with successful mutations spreading through populations at unprecedented rates while unsuccessful variants died out with equal swiftness. Environmental factors played crucial roles in determining the specific directions that FEV-induced evolution would take, with local conditions of temperature, humidity, available food sources, and chemical contamination influencing which genetic modifications would prove beneficial and which would prove fatal. The humid swamplands of Point Lookout produced mutations different from those found in the arid Mojave Desert, while the irradiated urban ruins of Washington, D.C. created selective pressures distinct from those encountered in the wilderness areas of Appalachia. Geographic isolation became a powerful force in driving speciation, as populations of mutated creatures adapted to local conditions, developed characteristics that made them increasingly distinct from their cousins in other regions. The mirelurks of the Commonwealth evolved differently from those found in the capital Wasteland, despite sharing common ancestry in pre-war crustacean species. because the specific environmental challenges they faced selected for different survival strategies and physical adaptations. The role of time in stabilizing mutations cannot be understated, as the creatures we encounter in the Wasteland represent not the chaotic first generation of post-war evolution, but the refined products of decades of natural selection operating at accelerated rates. Early mutations were often unstable, producing creatures that lived brief, painful lives before succumbing to genetic contradictions that their hastily rewritten DNA could not resolve. Only the most successful combinations of traits survived to reproduce and pass their modifications to subsequent generations. This process of rapid stabilization explains why wasteland creatures, despite their bizarre appearances and capabilities, function as viable organisms rather than genetic curiosities doomed to quick extinction. The Radscorpions stalking the Mojave Desert are not merely oversized insects struggling with the physical impossibilities of their size, but refined predators whose mutations have been tested and perfected through dozens of generations of survival in one of the most hostile environments on Earth. The cascade effects of genetic modification often produce changes far beyond those directly coded by the FEV, as alterations to fundamental developmental processes triggered secondary and tertiary modifications throughout an organism's entire biological system. A simple change to growth hormone production might result not only in increased size but also in altered bone density, modified muscle fiber composition, enhanced healing factors, and restructured organ systems capable of supporting a much larger and more active creature than the original species could sustain. These systemic modifications help explain how creatures like deathclaws can exist as functional organisms despite incorporating genetic material from species as different as chameleons and various mammalian predators. The FEV's programming included sophisticated biological modeling systems that predicted the cascading effects of genetic modifications and adjusted other systems accordingly, creating integrated organisms rather than patchwork monsters doomed to biological failure. The interaction between FEV modifications and radiation-induced mutations created additional layers of complexity, as the virus's genetic modifications often included enhanced resistance to radiation that allowed infected organisms to survive in environments that would kill their unmodified relatives. This radiation resistance, combined with the accelerated healing factors common to many FEV-modified creatures, enabled them to thrive in the most contaminated areas of the wasteland, often displacing species that had adapted to radiation, but lacked the comprehensive biological overhaul that viral infection provided. Temperature played a critical role in determining mutation outcomes, with the FEV's biological processes operating most efficiently within specific thermal ranges that varied by strain and environmental conditions. Creatures in colder regions like the Commonwealth develop different characteristics from those in warmer areas like the Mojave, not only because of environmental pressures, but because the viral modifications themselves function differently at various temperatures, activating different genetic programs and producing distinct evolutionary outcomes. The availability of food sources shaped mutation patterns in profound ways, as creatures adapted not only to new environments, but to new dietary opportunities created by the collapse of pre-war ecosystems. Many post-war predators evolved enhanced digestive systems capable of extracting nutrients from food sources that would have been toxic or inedible to their pre-war ancestors, allowing them to exploit ecological niches left vacant by extinct species, or to compete directly with established survivors for limited resources. Reproductive strategies underwent radical modifications as species adapted to post-war survival challenges, with many creatures developing accelerated breeding cycles, enhanced parental protection instincts, or alternative reproductive methods that ensured genetic continuity, even in the face of high mortality rates. The rapid reproduction of radroaches and the protective behaviors of mirelurk queens represent different approaches to the same fundamental challenge, ensuring species survival in an environment where death comes suddenly and without warning. The psychological and neurological effects of FEV exposure proved as significant as the physical modifications, often enhancing intelligence, sensory capabilities, and social behaviors in ways that made mutated creatures more effective survivors and more dangerous opponents. Super mutants retain human-level intelligence despite their physical transformation, while creatures like smart deathclaws developed cognitive abilities that exceeded those of their pre-war genetic contributors, suggesting that the virus included programming specifically designed to enhance neural function and learning capacity. Communication systems evolved rapidly among pack-hunting species, with many developing sophisticated methods of coordinating group behaviors, sharing information about threats and opportunities, and passing knowledge between generations. The complex social structures observed in ant colonies and the coordinated hunting strategies employed by packs of Radscorpions demonstrate that mutation enhanced not only individual capabilities, but collective intelligence and cooperation. Sensory systems underwent extensive modification as creatures adapted to the altered sensory landscape of the post-war world, with many developing enhanced radiation sensitivity, improved low-light vision, and specialized detection systems for identifying contaminated food sources or radioactive hazards. These sensory modifications often proved as important for survival as physical enhancements, enabling creatures to navigate and exploit environments that would be deadly to unmodified organisms. The relationship between mutation and aging followed complex patterns, with some modifications extending lifespan dramatically, while others accelerated aging processes or created entirely new life cycle stages. Ghouls represent the extreme end of radiation-induced longevity enhancement, while other creatures burn through their enhanced metabolism so rapidly that they pack entire lifetimes into periods measured in months rather than years. Healing and regenerative capabilities became standard features of many successful mutations, ranging from enhanced wound repair to complete limb regeneration, abilities that proved crucial for survival in environments where injury was common and medical care was non-existent. These regenerative powers often came with costs, requiring massive caloric intake or creating vulnerabilities to specific types of damage, but the survival advantages they provided generally outweighed the metabolic burdens they imposed. The study of wasteland mutations reveals fundamental truths about the nature of life itself, its incredible adaptability, its relentless drive to survive and reproduce, and its capacity to find solutions to challenges that seem insurmountable. Every creature stalking the irradiated ruins represents thousands of genetic experiments, most of which failed catastrophically, but some of which succeeded so well that they created entirely new forms of life perfectly suited to their transformed world. These mutations continue today, as radiation levels slowly decrease and environmental conditions gradually stabilize, creating new selective pressures that favor different traits and capabilities. The creatures we observe in the wasteland are not evolutionary endpoints, but works in progress, still adapting and changing in response to the slowly shifting conditions of their post-nuclear environment. The legacy of pre-war science lives on in every mutated creature, every impossible adaptation, every successful solution to the problem of survival in a world transformed by atomic fire. The laboratories may lie in ruins and the scientists may be long dead, But their work continues in the cells and genes of creatures that represent both humanity's greatest failure and nature's most remarkable triumph. The proof that life, given sufficient time and pressure, can adapt to absolutely anything. In the beginning, there was the radroach, scuttling through the debris of civilization with the same determination that had driven its ancestors through kitchen cabinets and restaurant pantries for millions of years before the bombs fell. This humble creature, no larger than a human thumb in the old world, represents perhaps the most successful adaptation to post-nuclear life, transforming from minor household nuisance into armored survivor, capable of thriving in environments that would kill almost any other form of life. The radroach success story begins with advantages that seemed insignificant in the pre-war world but proved invaluable when atomic fire reshaped the planet. Cockroaches had already evolved resistance to radiation levels that would prove fatal to most other species. A defense mechanism developed over hundreds of millions of years of surviving cosmic radiation, natural radioactive decay, and the occasional asteroid impact that punctuated Earth's geological history with brief but intense bursts of high-energy particles. When the Great War bathed the world in artificial radiation far exceeding anything in natural history, most life forms succumbed within days or weeks to cellular damage that their evolutionary heritage had never prepared them to handle. But the humble cockroach, armed with redundant biological systems, distributed nervous networks, and genetic repair mechanisms refined by eons of surviving in hostile environments, not only endured but flourished in conditions that transformed the planet into an alien landscape. The radroach we encounter today in the ruins of grocery stores and abandoned buildings represents not simply a surviving cockroach, but an enhanced version that has incorporated the benefits of sustained radiation exposure into its basic biology. Where pre-war cockroaches could survive brief exposure to high radiation, radroaches actively thrive in radioactive environments, using the energy from atomic decay to supplement their metabolism and fuel growth rates that would have been impossible under normal circumstances. This metabolic enhancement explains the radroach's most obvious modification, its dramatically increased size, with specimens commonly reaching dimensions that would have been physically impossible for pre-war insects. The square cube law that normally limits insect growth by making their breathing systems inadequate for larger bodies has been bypassed through radiation-induced modifications to their respiratory networks, allowing them to achieve sizes that make them visible threats rather than mere annoyances. The radroach's armored exoskeleton, already impressive in its pre-war form, has been strengthened and thickened through exposure to radioactive materials that would normally cause fatal cellular damage, but instead provide raw materials for enhanced chitin production. This biological armor provides protection not only against physical threats, but also against further radiation exposure, creating a positive feedback loop where increased radiation resistance enables survival in more contaminated environments that fuel further adaptive enhancement. Their reproductive strategy has undergone equally dramatic modifications, with breeding cycles accelerated to take advantage of the abundant food sources available in post-war environments, while producing offspring better adapted to radioactive conditions than their parents. A single radroach can produce hundreds of descendants in its lifetime, each generation incorporating beneficial mutations while weeding out harmful genetic variations through the harsh selective pressure of wasteland survival. The dietary habits of radroaches have expanded far beyond their pre-war omnivorous tendencies, with post-war specimens capable of digesting materials that would have been toxic to their ancestors. They consume not only traditional organic matter, but also certain types of radioactive waste, chemical contaminants, and even metallic debris, breaking down these substances through enhanced digestive enzymes that treat contamination as nutrition rather than poison. Where radroaches represent successful adaptation of existing species, bloatflies demonstrate how radiation can transform familiar creatures into something altogether more sinister and dangerous. Pre-war flies, already efficient vectors for disease transmission, have evolved into floating harbingers of corruption that spread contamination and plague throughout the wasteland with methodical precision that seems almost purposeful in its malevolence. The bloatfly's most immediately apparent modification is its grotesquely enlarged abdomen, swollen to several times the size that would have been possible for its pre-war ancestors, and filled with a cocktail of radioactive fluids, bacterial cultures, and chemical compounds that make each specimen a flying laboratory of biological warfare. This enlarged payload capacity enables bloatflies to deliver concentrated doses of contamination with each landing, turning their feeding behavior into a mechanism for spreading radiation and disease across vast areas. Their size increase, while less dramatic than that seen in radroaches, still represents a significant departure from pre-war norms, with adult bloatflies reaching dimensions that make them easily visible threats, capable of aggressive behavior toward much larger opponents. This enhanced size combines with improved flight capabilities to create aerial predators that can track and harass targets across considerable distances, often working in swarms to overwhelm prey through sheer persistence and accumulated exposure to their toxic payload. The bloatfly's digestive system has been radically modified to process the radioactive organic matter that comprises much of their diet, breaking down contaminated flesh and vegetation in ways that concentrate rather than eliminate dangerous isotopes. This biological processing creates the distinctive glowing fluid that bloatflies spray as both a defensive mechanism and a method of preparing food sources for easier consumption by pre-digesting target tissue through external application of their corrosive secretions. Their reproductive cycle has accelerated to match their enhanced metabolism, with bloatfly populations capable of exploding from small clusters to massive swarms in remarkably short periods when conditions prove favorable. Each generation incorporates beneficial mutations, while maintaining the core characteristics that make bloatflies such effective vectors for spreading contamination, ensuring that populations become more rather than less dangerous as they adapt to specific local conditions. But if radroach represents successful adaptation and bloatflies demonstrate dangerous evolution, then Cazadors embody the absolute pinnacle of scientific hubris, transformed into natural nightmare through the twisted genius of pre-war genetic engineering. These creatures did not evolve naturally from wasteland conditions, but were deliberately created by Dr. Boris at the Big Mountain Research Facility, combining the most terrifying aspects of real-world tarantula hawk wasps with genetic modifications, designed to create the perfect predatory organism. The creation process that produced the first Cazadors began with extensive study of tarantula hawk wasps, insects already so perfectly designed for hunting that they seemed like something from humanity's darkest nightmares rather than products of natural selection. These real-world predators hunt their prey not to kill immediately but to paralyze and preserve, laying their eggs in living victims who remain conscious throughout the process of being slowly consumed by hatching larvae. Dr. Boris enhanced these already horrifying characteristics through genetic modifications that increased size, durability, flight speed, and venom potency, while maintaining the predatory intelligence that makes tarantula hawks such efficient hunters. The resulting Cazadors inherited not only their creator's scientific precision, but also his apparent sadistic pleasure in creating organisms specifically designed to inspire terror and inflict suffering upon any creature unfortunate enough to encounter them. The Cazadors' distinctive orange and black coloration serves multiple functions beyond simple species identification, acting as both warning display and camouflage system depending on environmental conditions. In the rocky landscapes of the Mojave Desert, these colors blend perfectly with sunset-painted stone formations and oxidized metal debris, allowing Cazadors to achieve near-perfect concealment until the moment they launch their devastating attacks. Their wing structure represents a masterpiece of biological engineering, providing flight capabilities that exceed those of most other flying creatures in the wasteland, while generating the distinctive buzzing sound that has become synonymous with approaching death among wasteland travelers. These wings can sustain high-speed flight for extended periods, enabling Cazadors to pursue prey across vast distances while maintaining the maneuverability necessary for precise strikes in confined spaces. The Cazadors' venom represents perhaps the most sophisticated biological weapon encountered anywhere in the wasteland, combining neurotoxins that cause paralysis with tissue-destroying enzymes that begin the digestion process before the victim has expired. This venom is delivered through a retractable stinger capable of penetrating most forms of personal armor while injecting precise doses calculated to disable rather than immediately kill, preserving the victim for the reproductive cycle that follows successful hunting. Their behavioral patterns demonstrate intelligence that exceeds simple predatory instinct, with Cazadors showing evidence of tactical thinking, trap setting, and coordinated group hunting that suggests either enhanced neural development or some form of collective intelligence that enables swarm coordination. Individual Cazadors have been observed stalking specific targets for extended periods, learning their movement patterns and behavioral habits before selecting optimal moments for attack. The reproductive cycle of Cazadors follows the horrifying template established by their tarantula hawk ancestors, with females seeking out paralyzed victims as living incubators for their eggs. The paralytic venom keeps hosts conscious but immobilized throughout the gestation period, ensuring fresh meat for hatching larvae while preventing escape or interference with the development process. This reproductive strategy helps explain why Cazador encounters so rarely result in survivors, as even successful defensive actions often leave victims contaminated with eggs that will eventually hatch, regardless of immediate medical attention. Cazador nests, when discovered, reveal the full scope of their reproductive success, with underground chambers containing dozens of egg sacs and the preserved remains of countless victims from across the wasteland's food chain. These nests serve not only as breeding facilities but as food storage systems, with paralyzed victims kept alive for extended periods to provide fresh nutrition for developing offspring and adult Cazadors during periods when hunting opportunities become scarce. Their adaptation to wasteland conditions demonstrates the robust nature of Dr. Borus's genetic modifications, with Cazador populations thriving in environments ranging from the rocky highlands of Big Mountain to the irradiated valleys of the Mojave Desert. They show remarkable tolerance for radiation, chemical contamination, and extreme temperatures, while maintaining their predatory effectiveness across diverse terrains and against various prey species. The spread of Cazadors beyond their original containment at Big Mountain represents one of the most significant ecological disasters in post-war history, as these perfect predators have established breeding populations throughout the southwestern wasteland and continue expanding their range as food sources become available. Their presence fundamentally alters local ecosystems, driving many native species to extinction while creating new selective pressures that favor only the most defensive and evasive survival strategies. Radscorpions represent a different approach to successful arthropod evolution, taking the already formidable design of desert scorpions and scaling it up to proportions that transform them from occasional nuisances into apex predators, capable of challenging even the largest wasteland creatures. Unlike the engineered precision of Cazadors, Radscorpions achieved their enhanced capabilities through the more traditional process of radiation-induced mutation, combined with the harsh selective pressures of post-war desert survival. The Radscorpion's most immediately obvious enhancement is its dramatic size increase, with adult specimens reaching lengths that would have been physically impossible for pre-war scorpions due to the limitations imposed by their respiratory and circulatory systems. Radiation exposure has modified these biological constraints, enabling Radscorpions to achieve sizes that place them among the largest arthropods ever to exist, while maintaining the speed and agility that made their smaller ancestors such effective hunters. Their exoskeleton has undergone extensive modification to accommodate increased size while providing enhanced protection against the larger and more dangerous threats present in post-war environments. The chitinous armor that covers a Radscorpion's body provides resistance to most conventional weapons, while remaining flexible enough to permit the rapid movement necessary for their ambush hunting style. This biological armor has also been modified to provide protection against radiation, chemical contamination, and extreme temperature variations. The Radscorpion's venom represents an evolutionary arms race victory, with toxin production scaled up to match their increased size while incorporating new compounds that prove effective against the enhanced durability of other mutated creatures. Where pre-war scorpion venom was designed to incapacitate prey much smaller than the predator, Radscorpion venom can disable creatures many times their own size while remaining lethal to most wasteland species, despite their enhanced resistance to toxins and radiation. Their sensory systems have been enhanced to match their new role as major predators, with modified compound eyes providing improved vision in low-light conditions, and sensitive mechanoreceptors enabling detection of ground vibrations from considerable distances. These sensory enhancements, combined with their natural ambush instincts, make Radscorpions nearly impossible to surprise and extremely effective at detecting approaching prey or threats long before visual contact occurs. Radscorpion reproductive behavior has adapted to post-war conditions through enhanced maternal protection instincts and modified development cycles that produce offspring better equipped for wasteland survival. Female Radscorpions carry their young for extended periods, providing protection and initial training in hunting techniques, while the juvenile exoskeleton hardens to adult durability levels. This extended parental care ensures higher survival rates for offspring while passing on learned behaviors that prove essential for success in specific local environments. Their territorial behavior creates complex social structures within Radscorpion populations, with dominant individuals claiming the most resource-rich hunting grounds, while younger or weaker specimens are forced into marginal territories where survival becomes significantly more challenging. These territorial disputes often result in spectacular battles between Radscorpions of similar size, with victory determining not only immediate access to resources but also reproductive opportunities and long-term survival prospects. The various subspecies of Radscorpions found across different regions demonstrate how local environmental conditions can drive evolutionary divergence, even within successful species adaptations. Bark scorpions have developed enhanced climbing abilities and modified coloration that provides camouflage among dead vegetation, while giant Radscorpions represent the extreme end of size enhancement at the cost of speed and energy efficiency. Albino Radscorpions, found in certain areas, show increased aggression and venom potency, possibly as compensation for reduced camouflage capabilities. Ants and their various mutated descendants represent perhaps the most sophisticated example of collective intelligence and social organization among post-war arthropods, transforming from small colonial insects into major ecological forces capable of reshaping entire landscapes through coordinated construction and hunting activities. Their success demonstrates how radiation-enhanced mutation can amplify existing biological advantages rather than simply creating larger versions of pre-war species. Fire ants, already among the most aggressive and successful colonial species in pre-war ecosystems, have evolved into giants whose individual capabilities are matched by collective intelligence that approaches or exceeds human problem-solving abilities. Their colonies construct elaborate underground complexes that serve multiple functions: climate-controlled nurseries for developing larvae, food storage chambers, capable of preserving resources for extended periods, and defensive installations designed to repel attacks from much larger opponents. The division of labor within mutated ant colonies has become increasingly sophisticated, with specialized castes developing capabilities that exceed those seen in pre-war species. Worker ants have developed enhanced strength and durability that enables them to handle construction projects involving heavy stone and metal debris, while soldier ants have evolved enhanced mandibles and armor that make them formidable opponents for creatures many times their individual size. Queen ants have undergone the most dramatic modifications, growing to enormous sizes while developing enhanced egg production capabilities that can sustain colonies numbering in the hundreds of thousands. Their communication systems have evolved beyond simple chemical signals to include complex pheromone languages capable of conveying detailed information about threats, opportunities, and strategic planning across vast distances. These enhanced communication networks enable ant colonies to coordinate activities across multiple square miles of territory, while maintaining response times that allow rapid deployment of appropriate specialists to handle various situations as they arise. Ant colonies have also developed sophisticated relationships with other mutated species, sometimes forming symbiotic partnerships that benefit both parties while occasionally engaging in warfare that can devastate local ecosystems. Their ability to modify environments through construction activities has made them major factors in post-war ecological succession, with ant engineering projects often determining which plant and animal species can successfully establish themselves in specific areas. The various specialized roles within ant society have created evolutionary pressures that drive rapid diversification within colonies, producing individuals optimized for specific functions while maintaining genetic connection to the larger population. This biological flexibility enables ant colonies to adapt quickly to changing conditions while maintaining the collective memory and learned behaviors that provide advantages over less organized competitors. Mantises represent a different approach to arthropod success in post-war environments, combining enhanced individual hunting capabilities with camouflage systems that make them nearly invisible until the moment they strike. Their adaptation strategy focuses on perfecting existing strengths rather than developing entirely new capabilities, creating super predators that excel at ambush hunting while remaining energy efficient enough to survive in resource-scarce environments. The mantis growth enhancement follows patterns similar to other successful arthropod mutations, with increased size enabling them to hunt prey that would have been impossible targets for their pre-war ancestors. However, mantises have maintained the precise, striking speed and accuracy that made smaller versions such effective hunters, creating creatures capable of snatching flying insects out of the air, or decapitating small mammals with single strikes of their modified forelimbs. Their camouflage capabilities have been enhanced through radiation-induced modifications to their exoskeleton coloration and texture, enabling them to achieve near-perfect concealment among dead vegetation, rusted metal debris, and rock formations. This enhanced camouflage combines with their natural patience and stillness to create ambush predators that can wait motionless for hours or even days until suitable prey approaches within striking distance. Mantis reproductive behavior has adapted to post-war scarcity through enhanced selectivity in mate choice and modified cannibalistic behaviors that ensure maximum nutritional benefit from breeding activities. Females have developed larger egg production capabilities, while males have evolved enhanced speed and agility that improves their chances of surviving mating encounters, creating a reproductive system that maximizes offspring survival while maintaining genetic diversity within populations. The success of these arthropod species in post-war environments demonstrates fundamental principles of evolutionary adaptation, that existing advantages can be amplified through mutation, while entirely new capabilities can emerge from combinations of environmental pressure and genetic modification. Each species represents a different solution to the challenges of wasteland survival, from the radroach's focus on durability and reproduction, to the Cazadors' emphasis on predatory perfection, and the ants' development of collective intelligence and social organization. These creatures continue to evolve as conditions change, with new subspecies and behavioral adaptations appearing regularly as populations spread into new territories and encounter different environmental challenges. Their success has fundamentally altered post-war ecosystems, creating new food webs and competitive relationships that will continue shaping the biological landscape for generations to come. In the contaminated waters that once flowed pure and clear through pre-war America, a new dynasty of aquatic horrors has risen to claim dominion over every river, lake, pond, and flooded ruin from coast to coast. These creatures represent some of the most successful adaptations to post-nuclear conditions, transforming familiar crustaceans, mollusks, and amphibians into armored titans that have fundamentally altered the ecological balance of every waterway they inhabit. The story of aquatic mutation begins with understanding that water, far from being the pure, life-giving substance celebrated in pre-war advertising, became the primary vector for spreading radioactive contamination across vast distances. Rivers carried irradiated runoff from bombed cities into pristine wilderness areas, while underground aquifers absorbed fallout that would poison groundwater supplies for centuries. In these contaminated waters, evolution accelerated at rates that transformed entire species within decades rather than millennia. Mirelurk stand as the undisputed monarchs of this aquatic apocalypse, creatures that began as humble crabs and lobsters, but evolved into something far more formidable through the twin pressures of radiation exposure and competition for survival in waters where traditional food sources had been obliterated. Their success story demonstrates how existing biological advantages can be amplified beyond all recognition when environmental conditions eliminate the natural limitations that once constrained growth and development. The Atlantic blue crab that forms the genetic foundation for most mirelurk variants possessed characteristics that proved invaluable when the world ended. Protective exoskeletons that provided natural armor against radiation, aggressive territorial behavior that enabled successful competition for scarce resources, and omnivorous dietary habits that allowed exploitation of new food sources created by ecological collapse. These advantages, refined through generations of survival in increasingly hostile conditions, created predators perfectly suited to their transformed environment. The radiation that poisoned post-war waterways affected mirelurk development in ways that seemed to violate fundamental biological principles, enabling growth rates and final sizes that should have been impossible for arthropod physiology. The square cube law that normally prevents insects and crustaceans from achieving large sizes was circumvented through radiation-induced modifications to their respiratory and circulatory systems, creating creatures capable of supporting body masses that dwarfed their pre-war ancestors, while maintaining the speed and agility that made smaller versions such effective hunters. Their exoskeleton development represents one of the most impressive examples of biological armor creation in the post-war world, with chitin deposits reaching thicknesses and densities that provide protection equivalent to military-grade materials, while remaining light enough to permit aquatic locomotion. This biological armor is constantly renewed throughout their lives, with molting cycles that allow mirelurks to repair battle damage and adapt their protective systems to specific local threats they encounter in their territories. The dietary habits of mirelurks expanded far beyond their pre-war omnivorous tendencies, with post-war specimens capable of extracting nutrition from sources that would have been toxic to their ancestors. They consume not only traditional aquatic vegetation and small prey, but also radioactive algae, contaminated carrion, and even metallic debris that contains trace minerals essential for their enhanced physiological processes. This dietary flexibility enables mirelurk populations to thrive in waters where most other species have been eliminated by contamination. Their reproductive strategies have undergone extensive modification to ensure species survival in environments where traditional breeding cycles would result in extinction within a few generations. Mirelurk females produce thousands of eggs in protected underwater nests that they defend with suicidal determination, while their accelerated development cycles produce offspring capable of independent survival within weeks rather than the months required by their pre-war ancestors. The various subspecies of mirelurks found across different regions demonstrate how local environmental conditions can drive rapid evolutionary divergence, even within successful species adaptations. Commonwealth mirelurks developed enhanced terrestrial mobility that enables them to hunt effectively on land as well as in water, while capital wasteland variants grew larger and more aggressive as compensation for the increased competition in their more densely populated territories. Each regional variant represents a different solution to the specific challenges of survival in particular post-war environments. But the true apex of mirelurk evolution is represented by the queens, massive matriarchs whose size and capabilities exceed those of their spawn by orders of magnitude. These creatures represent either the result of extreme longevity, combined with continuous growth, exposure to particularly intense radiation that triggered unprecedented developmental acceleration, or possibly an entirely separate evolutionary branch that emerged from different pre-war species entirely. Mirelurk queens serve multiple functions within their species' social structure, acting simultaneously as protectors of breeding colonies, territorial enforcers who eliminate competing species, and living siege engines capable of assaulting fortified positions that smaller mirelurks cannot penetrate. Their size enables them to carry devastating weaponry in the form of acid-producing glands that can dissolve metal structures and organic armor with equal efficiency, while their reproductive capabilities allow single individuals to establish entire colonies in previously uninhabited waters. The Queen's combat capabilities represent the ultimate expression of biological warfare, combining massive physical strength with sophisticated ranged attacks that include corrosive acid sprays capable of reaching targets at considerable distances. Their ability to launch newly hatched offspring as living projectiles during combat creates swarm attacks that can overwhelm even heavily armed opponents through sheer numbers, while the Queen herself advances to engage in direct combat with surviving enemies. Their intelligence appears to exceed that of smaller mirelurks significantly, with queens demonstrating strategic thinking, trap-setting behavior, and the ability to coordinate complex operations involving multiple subordinate groups. These enhanced cognitive capabilities, combined with their physical dominance, establish queens as the undisputed rulers of their aquatic territories and make them among the most dangerous opponents that wasteland travelers can encounter. The lake lurks of the Western Territories represent a parallel evolutionary development that demonstrates how different pre-war species can converge on similar solutions when faced with comparable environmental pressures. These creatures evolved from snapping turtles rather than crustaceans, but achieved comparable success through modifications that emphasize stealth and ambush tactics rather than direct confrontation. The lake lurk's reptilian heritage provided advantages that complemented those possessed by mirelurk ancestors, including enhanced lung capacity that enables extended underwater operations, powerful jaw muscles capable of crushing bone and metal, and natural camouflage abilities that make them nearly invisible when motionless. These characteristics, enhanced through radiation-induced mutations, created aquatic predators specialized for different hunting strategies than their crustacean competitors. Their size enhancement followed patterns similar to those seen in mirelurks, with adult lake lurks reaching dimensions that would have been impossible for pre-war turtles while maintaining the devastating bite force that made smaller versions such effective predators. The combination of increased size with enhanced jaw strength creates creatures capable of attacking targets that range from small fish to large land animals, making them versatile predators capable of exploiting diverse food sources. The Lakalurk sonic attack represents one of the most unusual adaptations seen in any post-war aquatic species, with modified vocal structures that can produce sound waves powerful enough to disorient or even damage opponents at considerable distances. This biological sonar system serves multiple functions: stunning prey before physical attack, communicating with other lake lurks across vast underwater distances, and possibly even echolocation for navigation in murky or contaminated waters. Their amphibious capabilities enable lake lurks to exploit ecological niches unavailable to purely aquatic predators, with enhanced limb development that provides effective locomotion on land, while maintaining the swimming speed necessary for aquatic hunting. This versatility makes them particularly dangerous opponents because potential victims cannot escape simply by leaving the water, while their intelligence enables them to coordinate attacks that drive prey toward optimal ambush positions. The breeding behavior of lake lurks demonstrates sophisticated territorial organization, with dominant individuals claiming the most resource-rich portions of lakes and rivers, while subordinate specimens are forced into marginal areas where survival becomes significantly more challenging. These territorial arrangements create complex social hierarchies that influence not only individual survival prospects, but also the genetic characteristics passed to subsequent generations. Their interaction with other aquatic species follows patterns that suggest either cooperative hunting arrangements or possibly even primitive domestication relationships, with some lake lurks appearing to coordinate their activities with schools of mutated fish or amphibians. These relationships, whether symbiotic or predatory, demonstrate cognitive capabilities that exceed simple territorial behavior and suggest the development of complex ecological strategies. The various subspecies of lake lurks found in different western water bodies show adaptations to specific environmental conditions that range from enhanced cold tolerance in mountain lakes to improved chemical resistance in heavily contaminated industrial waterways. Each variant represents successful adaptation to particular local challenges, while maintaining the core characteristics that make lake lurks such effective aquatic predators. Anglerfish mutations represent some of the most disturbing examples of deep water adaptation, taking creatures that were already alien in appearance and transforming them into nightmare predators that haunt the deepest portions of flooded ruins and contaminated reservoirs. These creatures demonstrate how radiation can amplify existing biological capabilities to create predators that seem almost supernatural in their effectiveness. The pre-war anglerfish already possessed characteristics that seem designed by malevolent intelligence, bioluminescent lures that attracted prey through deception, massive mouths capable of swallowing victims larger than the predator itself, and expandable stomachs that could accommodate prey of improbable dimensions. Radiation exposure enhanced all of these capabilities while adding new features that make post-war anglers among the most feared predators in any environment where they establish themselves. Their size enhancement follows the familiar pattern of successful aquatic mutations, with specimens reaching lengths that enable them to threaten human-sized prey while maintaining the ambush capabilities that made smaller versions such effective hunters. The combination of increased size with enhanced bioluminescent capabilities creates predators that can lure much larger prey than their pre-war ancestors could have attempted to attack. The lure modifications represent sophisticated biological engineering, with light-producing organs that can generate complex patterns and colors designed to mimic various food sources or even distress signals from other creatures. These enhanced lures demonstrate intelligence that exceeds simple predatory instinct, suggesting that post-war anglers possess cognitive capabilities that enable them to adapt their hunting strategies to the specific behaviors of different prey species. Their digestive systems have been modified to handle the radioactive and chemically contaminated flesh that comprises much of their diet, with enhanced stomach acids capable of breaking down materials that would be toxic to most other predators. This digestive enhancement enables anglers to exploit food sources unavailable to competitors while concentrating rather than eliminating dangerous compounds that they can use for defensive purposes. The reproductive cycle of anglerfish has adapted to deep water environments where potential mates are scarce, and breeding opportunities may be separated by long periods of isolation. Enhanced pheromone production enables individuals to attract mates from considerable distances, while modified reproductive anatomy ensures successful breeding even under the challenging conditions of their preferred habitats. Their behavior patterns suggest territorial organization based on available hiding places rather than simple area control, with individual anglers claiming specific ambush sites that they defend against all intruders, while ranging widely in search of prey. These territories often include multiple levels of flooded structures, enabling anglers to exploit vertical hunting opportunities that provide access to prey species with different behavioral patterns. The psychological impact of angler encounters extends beyond their immediate threat capabilities, as their alien appearance and hunting methods trigger instinctive fear responses that can paralyze potential victims even when escape remains possible. This psychological warfare aspect of their predatory strategy suggests either evolved understanding of prey psychology or possibly even deliberate cultivation of terror as a hunting tool. Other aquatic mutations demonstrate the incredible diversity of evolutionary solutions that emerged when familiar species encountered unprecedented environmental challenges. Mutated salmon developed enhanced size and aggressive behavior that transformed them from prey species into predators capable of threatening much larger opponents, while modified catfish grew to enormous proportions and developed venomous spines that make them dangerous even when not actively hunting. The ecological relationships between different aquatic species have created complex food webs that bear little resemblance to pre-war patterns, with some creatures forming symbiotic partnerships that benefit both parties, while others engage in warfare that can devastate entire waterway ecosystems. These interactions continue to evolve as populations stabilize and new competitive pressures emerge from changing environmental conditions. Polluted waterways created unique evolutionary pressures that favored creatures capable of not only surviving in contaminated environments, but actually benefiting from exposure to materials that would be toxic to unmodified organisms. Some aquatic species developed the ability to concentrate heavy metals and radioactive isotopes in specialized organs that they use for defensive purposes, while others learned to exploit chemical contamination as an energy source that supplements traditional nutrition. The spawning behaviors of mutated aquatic species have created new seasonal patterns of danger and opportunity throughout the wasteland, with certain times of year becoming particularly hazardous as massive numbers of aggressive predators gather in specific locations for reproductive activities. These spawning events can temporarily transform peaceful waterways into killing fields, while creating opportunities for other species to exploit the temporary abundance of distracted predators. Temperature variations in different water bodies have driven the development of specialized adaptations that enable survival in environments ranging from near-freezing mountain streams to warm industrial discharge pools. These thermal adaptations often include modified metabolism, enhanced insulation, or even the ability to enter dormant states during extreme temperature periods that would be fatal to unmodified organisms. The interaction between aquatic predators and terrestrial species has created new forms of ecological pressure that influence evolution on both sides of the waterline, with land animals developing enhanced swimming abilities and aquatic creatures improving their terrestrial hunting capabilities. These evolutionary arms races continue to shape both aquatic and terrestrial ecosystems as species adapt to the blurred boundaries between water and land habitats. Seasonal migration patterns among aquatic species have been disrupted and reformed by post-war conditions, with some creatures developing new routes that take advantage of contaminated waterways that provide nutrition unavailable in cleaner environments. These modified migrations create temporal windows of extreme danger in certain areas, while leaving others temporarily safe from aquatic predators. The success of aquatic mutations in post-war environments demonstrates that water, despite its contamination, remained one of the most stable and resource-rich habitats available after the Great War. While terrestrial environments faced complete ecosystem collapse, aquatic systems provided continuity that enabled rapid evolutionary adaptation rather than simple extinction, creating the diverse and dangerous aquatic fauna that now dominates every significant body of water in post-war America. These creatures continue to evolve as water conditions slowly change and new environmental pressures emerge, suggesting that the current generation of aquatic predators represents only the beginning of an evolutionary process that will continue reshaping underwater ecosystems for centuries to come. In the vast expanses of irradiated wilderness that stretch between the ruins of civilization, a menagerie of transformed mammals roams the wasteland, each species representing a different response to the unprecedented evolutionary pressures unleashed by atomic fire. These creatures, once familiar companions and neighbors to humanity, now embody the profound changes that nuclear warfare wrought upon the natural world, transforming beloved pets into loyal guardians, livestock into beloved chimeras, and wild animals into either gentle giants or terrifying predators that have learned to thrive in humanity's absence. The brahmin stands as perhaps the most visible symbol of successful mammalian adaptation to post-war conditions, a creature that began as ordinary cattle but evolved into something far more remarkable through the simple yet profound mutation that gave each individual 2 fully functional heads. This seemingly impossible biological modification represents not a random accident of radiation exposure, but a sophisticated evolutionary response to the challenges of survival in environments where traditional single-headed awareness systems proved inadequate for detecting the diverse threats that now stalked the wasteland. The development of dual cranial structures in brahmin populations occurred through a complex process of radiation-induced genetic modification that somehow preserved all essential biological functions while duplicating the most critical sensory and cognitive systems. Each head operates as a fully independent sensory platform, with separate brains, nervous systems, and sensory organs that coordinate through enhanced neural connections to provide unprecedented environmental awareness that enables early detection of predators, identification of safe grazing areas, and navigation through terrain that would challenge single-headed herbivores. This enhanced awareness system provides brahmin with survival advantages that more than compensate for the increased metabolic demands of maintaining dual nervous systems and sensory arrays. Where single-headed cattle would fall prey to stalking predators or consume contaminated vegetation, brahmin herds demonstrate collective vigilance that enables them to detect threats from multiple directions simultaneously, while identifying food sources that provide adequate nutrition without fatal contamination levels. The brahmin's digestive system underwent extensive modification to handle the radioactive plant matter that comprises much of their diet, developing enhanced processing capabilities that not only neutralize many common contaminants, but actually extract beneficial nutrients from materials that would poison unmodified cattle. This biological adaptation enables brahmin to exploit ecological niches that remain unavailable to most other large herbivores, while providing them with nutritional advantages that support their enhanced neural architecture. Their reproductive success demonstrates the stability of their genetic modifications, with brahmin consistently producing viable offspring that inherit both heads and the associated enhanced capabilities, without the genetic instability that characterizes many other radiation-induced mutations. This reproductive reliability has made brahmin invaluable to post-war human settlements, providing not only transportation and labor services, but also renewable sources of food, leather, and other materials essential for wasteland survival. The social behavior of brahmin herds reveals intelligence that appears to exceed that of their pre-war ancestors, with complex communication systems that utilize both heads to convey detailed information about environmental conditions, threats, and resource availability. These enhanced communication capabilities enable brahmin communities to coordinate responses to changing conditions while maintaining herd cohesion across vast territories that might fragment less adaptable groups. Regional variations among brahmin populations demonstrate how local environmental conditions continue to drive evolutionary adaptation, with some herds developing enhanced radiation resistance, while others evolved improved cold tolerance or enhanced digestive efficiency for processing specific types of contaminated vegetation. These ongoing adaptations suggest that brahmin represent not an evolutionary endpoint, but a continuing success story that will likely produce additional beneficial modifications as environmental conditions continue to change. The Radstag represents a different approach to successful mammalian mutation, taking the graceful elegance of pre-war deer and enhancing it through modifications that provide both improved survival capabilities and an almost otherworldly beauty that seems to transcend the harsh realities of wasteland existence. These creatures demonstrate how radiation can enhance rather than diminish the aesthetic qualities that made certain animals beloved by pre-war humanity. The most immediately apparent modification in Radstag anatomy is the multiplication of limbs, with most specimens sporting additional legs that provide enhanced stability, improved speed, and the ability to navigate terrain that would challenge traditionally configured quadrupeds. This limb multiplication follows developmental patterns that suggest sophisticated genetic programming rather than random mutation, with additional appendages integrating seamlessly into existing skeletal and muscular systems while maintaining the coordination and grace that characterizes deer movement. Their antler development has undergone equally impressive enhancement, with complex branching patterns that exceed anything seen in pre-war deer species, while incorporating bioluminescent properties that serve multiple functions ranging from mating displays to predator deterrence. These enhanced antlers provide not only improved defensive capabilities but also sophisticated sensory systems that detect environmental changes, electromagnetic fields, and possibly even radiation levels that might indicate dangerous areas to avoid. The Radstags' enhanced sensory systems represent some of the most sophisticated biological modifications encountered in any wasteland species, with vision, hearing, and scent detection capabilities that enable awareness of environmental conditions across vast distances. These sensory enhancements enable Radstag herds to detect approaching threats long before visual contact occurs, while identifying safe grazing areas and water sources that provide adequate nutrition without dangerous contamination. Levels. Their digestive modifications parallel those seen in brahmin, but emphasize different aspects of post-war nutritional challenges, with enhanced processing of woody plant matter and improved extraction of minerals from contaminated soil through specialized feeding behaviors. These dietary adaptations enable Radstags to exploit food sources unavailable to most other herbivores while maintaining the energy levels necessary for their enhanced mobility and sensory systems. The reproductive behavior of Radstags demonstrates sophisticated mate selection processes that appear to evaluate genetic compatibility, radiation resistance, and overall fitness through complex courtship rituals that utilize their enhanced antler displays and improved vocal capabilities. These mating behaviors ensure that beneficial mutations are preserved and enhanced through subsequent generations, while weeding out harmful genetic variations that might compromise herd survival. Their migration patterns have adapted to post-war conditions through the development of routes that take advantage of seasonal variation in radiation levels, food availability, and predator activity, while avoiding areas where contamination reaches levels that would prove harmful even to their enhanced physiologies. These modified migration routes often follow corridors between human settlements, creating opportunities for beneficial interaction between Radstag herds and wasteland communities. The social structure of Radstag herds reveals enhanced cooperation and communication systems that enable coordinated responses to threats while maintaining group cohesion during long migrations through dangerous territory. These social behaviors suggest cognitive enhancements that parallel their physical modifications, creating creatures that are not only more capable individually, but also more effective as cooperative communities. Mole rats represent perhaps the most dramatic example of successful underground adaptation, transforming from small burrowing rodents into subterranean engineers, capable of constructing tunnel systems that rival pre-war infrastructure projects in their complexity and scale. These creatures demonstrate how existing behavioral specializations can be amplified through mutation to create entirely new ecological roles that were impossible for their pre-war ancestors. The size enhancement seen in mole rat populations follows familiar patterns of successful post-war mutation, with individuals reaching dimensions that enable them to excavate tunnels large enough for human passage, while maintaining the digging efficiency that made smaller versions such effective burrowers. This increased size combines with enhanced muscular development to create creatures capable of moving enormous quantities of earth and stone, while constructing underground complexes that provide protection from surface radiation and bear-on predators. Their sensory adaptations emphasize systems that prove most valuable for underground existence, with enhanced tactile sensitivity that enables navigation in complete darkness, improved hearing that detects ground vibrations from considerable distances, and possibly even magnetic sensitivity that provides orientation information in environments where traditional navigation methods prove inadequate. These sensory modifications create creatures perfectly adapted for subterranean existence while maintaining awareness of surface conditions that might affect their underground territories. The social organization of mole rat colonies demonstrates collective intelligence that approaches or possibly exceeds human problem-solving capabilities, with complex hierarchies that coordinate construction projects, resource allocation, and defensive preparations across tunnel systems that may extend for miles underground. These social structures suggest that individual intelligence enhancements have been complemented by improvements in communication and cooperation that create collective capabilities exceeding the sum of individual contributions. Their construction techniques reveal engineering principles that seem to transcend instinctive behavior, with tunnel systems incorporating sophisticated ventilation, drainage, and structural support features that enable long-term viability under challenging geological conditions. These engineering capabilities suggest either dramatically enhanced problem-solving abilities or possibly even cultural transmission of learned construction techniques between generations of mole rat communities. The defensive capabilities of mole rat colonies create underground fortresses that provide protection not only against surface predators, but also against competing mole rat communities and other subterranean threats. These defensive systems include complex trap mechanisms, concealed ambush chambers, and emergency escape routes that demonstrate tactical thinking and strategic planning abilities that exceed simple territorial behavior. Their interaction with surface ecosystems occurs through carefully planned foraging expeditions that utilize their tunnel systems to approach resource areas while maintaining escape routes that enable rapid retreat to underground. Safety. These foraging strategies demonstrate risk assessment capabilities and tactical flexibility that suggest cognitive enhancements accompanying their physical modifications. Guai represent the transformation of one of humanity's most beloved symbols into something that embodies both the lost innocence of the pre-war world and the dangerous reality of post-nuclear survival. These creatures evolved from black bears but have grown into massive predators whose size and aggressive behavior make them among the most feared opponents in any environment where they establish territories. The psychological impact of guai encounters extends beyond their immediate physical threat, as their resemblance to teddy bears and other childhood symbols creates cognitive dissonance that can paralyze potential victims even when escape remains possible. This psychological dimension of their threat demonstrates how post-war mutations can exploit human emotional responses in ways that their pre-war ancestors never could, suggesting either coincidental evolution or possibly some form of adaptive mimicry. Their size enhancement represents some of the most dramatic growth seen in any mammalian species, with adult guai reaching proportions that place them among the largest land predators in post-war America, while maintaining the intelligence and adaptability that made bears such successful omnivores. This combination of increased size with retained cognitive flexibility creates predators capable of adjusting their hunting strategies to exploit diverse food sources while posing serious threats to even well-armed human opponents. The aggressive behavior modifications seen in guai populations exceed simple territorial expansion, with many specimens displaying active hunting behavior toward humans and other large prey that would have been avoided by pre-war bears, except under extreme circumstances. This enhanced aggression may result from radiation-induced neurological changes, competition pressure from other large predators, or possibly learned behavior that recognizes humans as preferred prey species. Their enhanced durability enables guai to survive injuries that would prove fatal to unmodified bears while maintaining full combat effectiveness throughout extended encounters with well-armed opponents. This biological resilience combines with their natural intelligence to create opponents that can adapt tactics during combat while absorbing damage levels that would incapacitate most other creatures. The reproductive behavior of guai demonstrates modifications that ensure species success despite their increased size and metabolic demands, with enhanced cub survival rates and modified maternal protection instincts that extend parental care for longer periods than seen in pre-war bears. These reproductive adaptations help maintain guai populations despite the challenges of finding adequate food sources to support their enhanced physiologies. Their territorial behavior creates complex hierarchies that determine access to the most resource-rich hunting grounds, while forcing subordinate individuals into marginal territories where survival becomes significantly more challenging. These territorial arrangements influence not only immediate survival prospects but also the genetic characteristics passed to subsequent generations. Regional variations among guai populations show adaptations to specific environmental conditions ranging from enhanced cold tolerance in northern territories to improved heat dissipation in desert regions. Each variant represents successful adaptation to particular local challenges, while maintaining the core characteristics that make guai such formidable predators. Wolves and their various mutations demonstrate how pack-hunting predators adapted to post-war conditions through enhanced cooperation, communication, and tactical flexibility that enables them to compete successfully against much larger individual opponents. These creatures represent the evolution of collective hunting strategies that prove especially effective in environments where traditional prey species have been replaced by dangerous, mutated alternatives. The physical modifications seen in wolf populations vary considerably between different regions and subspecies, with some developing enhanced size and durability, while others evolved improved speed and agility. These variations reflect different solutions to the challenge of hunting in environments where prey species have become larger, more dangerous, and better defended than their pre-war predecessors. Their pack behavior has evolved beyond simple cooperative hunting to include sophisticated tactical coordination that enables wolves to engage opponents that would defeat individual predators through superior size or defensive capabilities. These enhanced pack tactics suggest cognitive improvements that enable planning, role specialization, and adaptive strategy modification during extended encounters with dangerous prey. The communication systems used by wolf packs have become more complex and sophisticated, enabling coordination across greater distances while conveying more detailed information about threats, opportunities, and tactical situations. These enhanced communication capabilities provide pack members with information necessary for executing complex hunting strategies that require precise timing and coordination. Their adaptation to various post-war environments demonstrates remarkable flexibility, with different populations developing specializations that enable success in territories ranging from irradiated urban ruins to contaminated wilderness areas. This environmental adaptability suggests that wolves possess genetic and behavioral flexibility that enables rapid evolutionary response to changing conditions. Dogs represent perhaps the most emotionally complex example of mammalian adaptation to post-war conditions, as these creatures maintain their essential loyalty to humanity while developing enhanced capabilities that make them more valuable companions than ever before. The relationship between dogs and wasteland humans demonstrates how beneficial mutations can strengthen rather than destroy the bonds between species that evolution forged over thousands of years of cooperation. The enhanced intelligence seen in many post-war dog populations enables them to understand and respond to complex human communication, while independently assessing threats and opportunities that their human companions might miss. These cognitive improvements create partnerships where dogs serve not merely as companions but as equals, contributing specialized capabilities to mutual survival efforts. Their physical enhancements vary considerably between different breeds and regional populations, with some developing improved durability and size, while others evolved enhanced speed, sensory capabilities, or specialized abilities that complement their traditional roles as hunting partners, guards, and companions. These modifications typically enhance rather than replace existing breed characteristics, creating super versions of familiar dog types. The loyalty modifications seen in post-war dogs appear to strengthen rather than weaken the bonds that connect them to human companions, with many specimens displaying protective instincts and devotion that exceed even the impressive standards set by their pre-war ancestors. These enhanced loyalty traits create relationships of mutual dependence that benefit both species while providing emotional support that proves essential for psychological survival in harsh post-war conditions. Their adaptation to radioactive environments enables dogs to accompany human partners into areas that would prove dangerous to unmodified animals, while providing early warning of contamination levels that might threaten human health. This environmental adaptation makes dogs invaluable partners for wasteland exploration and scavenging operations that require navigation through areas with varying radiation levels. The reproductive success of dog populations demonstrates genetic stability despite their mutations, with beneficial traits being reliably passed to offspring while harmful variations are eliminated through natural selection and human intervention. This genetic stability ensures that useful dog characteristics remain available to future generations of wasteland survivors. Their hunting capabilities have been enhanced through improved sensory systems, increased endurance, and tactical intelligence that enables them to assist human partners in securing food sources that might otherwise remain inaccessible. These hunting improvements create partnerships where dogs contribute actively to survival efforts rather than simply consuming resources provided by human companions. The various mammalian species that now inhabit the wasteland represent different approaches to the challenge of survival in post-nuclear environments, each demonstrating how existing biological systems can be modified, enhanced, or completely restructured to create viable solutions to unprecedented environmental challenges. Their success stories provide hope that life possesses sufficient adaptability to survive even the most severe disruptions, while creating new forms of beauty and wonder that transcend the circumstances of their creation. These creatures continue to evolve as environmental conditions change and new challenges emerge, suggesting that the current generation of mammalian mutants represents only the beginning of an ongoing evolutionary process that will continue producing new adaptations and capabilities for generations to come. Their survival and success demonstrate that even in the darkest circumstances, life finds ways to not merely endure but to flourish and create forms of existence that exceed what seemed possible before the world changed forever. At the apex of the post-war food chain stands a creature that represents humanity's greatest triumph and most terrible mistake, a living weapon that escaped its creators to become the undisputed master of the wasteland's brutal hierarchy of survival. The Deathclaw embodies everything that made pre-war science both magnificent and terrifying. The audacity to improve upon millions of years of evolution, the technical skill to succeed beyond all expectations, and the hubris to believe that such power could be controlled forever. The Deathclaw project began in the sterile laboratories of pre-war America as an ambitious attempt to create the perfect biological weapon, a creature that would combine the best characteristics of multiple predatory species while eliminating the weaknesses that limited their individual effectiveness. Military planners envisioned battalions of these engineered predators, replacing human soldiers in the most dangerous combat operations, creatures that could think tactically while fighting with superhuman strength and resilience. The genetic foundation for this ambitious project came from the Jackson's chameleon, a species chosen not for its size or obvious predatory capabilities, but for its sophisticated sensory systems, remarkable camouflage abilities, and most importantly, its opposable thumbs. These seemingly minor characteristics would prove crucial in creating a predator that could manipulate objects, operate simple equipment, and interact with human technology in ways that purely instinctive animals could never achieve. The engineering process that transformed humble chameleons into apex predators required genetic material from dozens of other species, each contributing specific capabilities that the final product would need to excel in its intended military role. DNA from various large predators provided the size and muscular development necessary for combat effectiveness, while material from pack hunters contributed the intelligence and cooperative instincts that would enable deathclaws to function as military units rather than solitary killers. The bipedal design that characterizes all deathclaw variants was an intentional choice that reflected military requirements rather than natural evolutionary pressures. Standing upright freed the creature's powerful forelimbs for combat and manipulation tasks, while providing enhanced field of vision that would prove crucial for reconnaissance and battlefield awareness. This design also enabled deathclaws to utilize human-scaled equipment and navigate through structures designed for bipedal movement. The iconic claws that give these creatures their name represent perhaps the most sophisticated biological weapons ever created, combining molecular-level sharpness with structural integrity that enables them to penetrate virtually any material encountered on the battlefield. These claws grow continuously throughout a deathclaw's lifetime, maintaining their deadly effectiveness despite heavy use, while adapting their composition to provide optimal performance against whatever materials they encounter most frequently. The muscular and skeletal systems supporting these biological weapons underwent extensive modification to provide the strength and leverage necessary for their devastating effectiveness. A deathclaw's strike carries enough force to shatter concrete, slice through steel, and bisect heavily armored opponents with casual ease. This incredible striking power results not from simple size but from optimized muscle fiber composition, enhanced bone density, and biomechanical efficiency that maximizes the conversion of metabolic energy into kinetic force. Their sensory systems represent a masterwork of biological engineering that combines the best aspects of multiple species' perceptual capabilities, while adding entirely synthetic enhancements that exceed anything found in nature. Deathclaw vision operates across multiple spectrums simultaneously, providing detailed information about heat signatures, electromagnetic activity, and chemical compositions that enables them to track prey across vast distances while detecting concealed threats that would remain invisible to normal perception. The hearing capabilities of deathclaws extend far beyond human ranges in both frequency and sensitivity, enabling them to detect heartbeats from considerable distances, distinguish between different types of movement based on acoustic signatures, and possibly even echolocate in environments where visual information proves inadequate. These enhanced auditory systems provide tactical information that supplements their visual capabilities while enabling communication with other deathclaws across distances that would prevent normal vocal contact. Their olfactory systems process chemical information with precision that approaches analytical instrument capabilities, distinguishing between individual humans based on scent signatures while detecting emotional states, health conditions, and recent activities through pheromone analysis. This chemical perception enables deathclaws to assess threats, identify prey conditions, and possibly even predict behavior patterns based on biochemical indicators that their targets cannot consciously control. The intelligence modifications incorporated into Deathclaw genetics created creatures capable of tactical thinking, problem-solving, and learning from experience in ways that exceeded the capabilities of their genetic contributors. Early military tests demonstrated that Deathclaws could master complex tasks, adapt to changing battlefield conditions, and even develop innovative solutions to problems they had never encountered before. This cognitive flexibility made them invaluable as military assets, while creating the foundation for their eventual independence from human control. The social instincts programmed into Deathclaw genetics reflected military requirements for unit cohesion and command structure, with alpha pairs serving as natural leaders, while subordinate individuals filled specialized roles within pack hierarchies. These social systems enabled Deathclaws to coordinate complex operations while maintaining the discipline necessary for military effectiveness, creating creatures that combined individual lethality with collective tactical capability. But the Great War arrived before the Deathclaw program could achieve full military deployment, and the atomic fires that consumed civilization also destroyed the containment systems that held these engineered predators in their laboratory environments. The creatures that escaped into the post-war wasteland carried with them all the capabilities their creators had so carefully crafted, but none of the control mechanisms that were supposed to ensure their continued obedience to human authority. The first generation of wild Deathclaws faced environmental challenges that their laboratory upbringing had never prepared them to handle, but their engineered adaptability enabled them to not only survive, but thrive in conditions that destroyed most other large predators. Their enhanced durability protected them from radiation levels that would prove fatal to unmodified animals, while their superior intelligence enabled them to identify safe food sources and territory in a world where traditional ecological relationships had been completely disrupted. Their reproductive success in wild conditions exceeded even optimistic projections from the original research program, with breeding pairs establishing territories across vast areas, while producing offspring that inherited the full spectrum of engineered capabilities, without the genetic instability that often characterizes artificial modifications. This reproductive stability ensured that beneficial traits would be preserved and enhanced through subsequent generations, while harmful mutations were eliminated through natural selection. The territorial behavior that emerged among wild Deathclaw populations reflected both their programmed pack instincts and their adaptation to post-war resource scarcity, with established pairs claiming the most defensible and resource-rich areas, while younger individuals were forced to compete for marginal territories or challenge existing hierarchies through direct combat. These territorial arrangements created complex social dynamics that influenced not only immediate survival, but also the genetic characteristics passed to future generations. Regional variations among Deathclaw populations demonstrate how their engineered adaptability enabled rapid evolutionary response to different environmental conditions, with desert populations developing enhanced heat tolerance, while northern variants evolved improved cold resistance. These adaptations occurred within decades, rather than the millennia typically required for such modifications, suggesting that the genetic engineering process included mechanisms for accelerated evolutionary response. The Master's experiments with captured Deathclaws represented an attempt to enhance already perfect predators through exposure to the forced evolutionary virus, creating specimens whose capabilities exceeded even the impressive standards established by the original military program. These modified Deathclaws demonstrated intelligence that approached human levels while retaining the physical capabilities that made them such formidable opponents, creating creatures that could think strategically while fighting with supernatural effectiveness. The chameleon deathclaws that emerged from these experiments possessed camouflage capabilities that made them nearly invisible until the moment they struck, combining their enhanced stealth with tactical intelligence that enabled them to plan ambushes and coordinate attacks with devastating precision. These variants represented the evolution of deathclaws from powerful but visible threats into nearly undetectable killers that could strike without warning from any direction. The albino deathclaws found in certain regions demonstrate how genetic variations within the engineered population could produce specialists adapted for specific environmental conditions or hunting strategies. These pale variants often exhibited enhanced sensory capabilities and modified behavior patterns that made them even more dangerous than their standard cousins, suggesting that the deathclaw genetic template contained hidden potential that environmental pressures could unlock. The matriarchs that lead established deathclaw communities represent the ultimate expression of the species' potential, combining the wisdom gained through years of survival experience with physical capabilities that exceed those of younger specimens. These ancient females serve multiple roles within their communities: as military commanders coordinating territorial defense, as repositories of learned knowledge about survival strategies, and as the genetic foundation for future generations that will carry deathclaw evolution forward. The Enclave's experiments with intelligent deathclaws represented perhaps the most ambitious attempt to fulfill the original military vision for these creatures, using advanced FEV modifications to create specimens capable of human-level communication, while retaining their engineered combat capabilities. These experiments produced deathclaws that could engage in complex conversations, understand abstract concepts, and even develop personal relationships with their human handlers. The tragic fate of these intelligent deathclaws demonstrates both the potential and the ultimate impossibility of controlling such powerful creations, as their enhanced cognitive abilities enabled them to understand their situation and question the authority of their creators. Their rebellion and subsequent destruction revealed that intelligence combined with physical superiority would inevitably lead to conflicts that their creators could not win through conventional means. The pack hunting strategies employed by wild deathclaw communities demonstrate sophisticated tactical coordination that enables them to bring down prey much larger than individual specimens could handle alone. These hunting techniques include complex ambush arrangements, coordinated flanking maneuvers, and role specialization that maximizes the effectiveness of each pack member while minimizing individual risk during dangerous encounters. Their ability to adapt hunting strategies to different prey species reveals learning capabilities that exceed simple instinctive behavior, with packs developing specialized techniques for dealing with heavily armored opponents, fast-moving targets, and even aerial threats. This tactical flexibility makes deathclaws effective predators against virtually any opponent they might encounter, while enabling them to exploit new food sources as they become available. The construction behavior observed in some deathclaw populations suggests engineering capabilities that parallel their hunting intelligence, with communities creating defensive installations, trap systems, and even primitive tools that enhance their territorial control while providing protection for their young. These construction projects demonstrate problem-solving abilities that approach human engineering capabilities while serving practical functions that improve survival prospects. The communication systems used by deathclaw packs include complex vocalizations, scent marking, and possibly even rudimentary sign language that enables coordination of activities across their territories. These communication capabilities provide pack members with information necessary for successful cooperation, while enabling the transmission of learned knowledge between generations of deathclaws. The relationship between deathclaws and other wasteland species follows patterns that suggest either deliberate ecological management or possibly even primitive domestication relationships, with some communities appearing to maintain symbiotic partnerships with smaller predators that provide early warning systems in exchange for protection from larger threats. These relationships demonstrate social intelligence that exceeds simple territorial behavior, while suggesting the development of complex ecological strategies. The various subspecies and variants of deathclaws found across different regions represent ongoing evolutionary experimentation that continues to produce new capabilities and adaptations decades after their initial release into wild environments. Each variant represents a different solution to specific local challenges while maintaining the core characteristics that make deathclaws such successful predators. The psychological impact of deathclaw encounters extends far beyond their immediate physical threat, as these creatures have become symbols of humanity's loss of dominion over the natural world and the consequences of scientific hubris unleashed without adequate safeguards. Their presence in any area fundamentally alters human behavior patterns, forcing settlements to adopt defensive measures and travel restrictions that shape entire community lifestyles around the need to avoid attracting their attention. The legends and folklore that have developed around deathclaws in various human communities reflect both fear and grudging respect for creatures that represent the pinnacle of predatory evolution enhanced by human engineering. These cultural developments suggest that deathclaws have transcended their original role as military weapons to become integral parts of post-war mythology and human psychological adaptation to the transformed world. The ongoing evolution of deathclaw populations suggests that these creatures will continue developing new capabilities and adaptations as environmental conditions change and new challenges emerge. Their engineered genetic flexibility provides a foundation for continued evolutionary experimentation that may produce variants even more capable than current specimens, ensuring that deathclaws will remain the ultimate predators in whatever world emerges from the ashes of the old. The success of deathclaws in establishing themselves as apex predators throughout post-war America demonstrates that their creators achieved their goal of producing the perfect biological weapon, even though they lost control of their creation before it could serve its intended purpose. These creatures now serve as living monuments to both human ingenuity and the dangers of playing God with the forces of evolution, embodying lessons about power, responsibility, and the unintended consequences of scientific achievement that echo across the wasteland, like the sound of their approaching footsteps in the darkness. The deathclaw stands eternal as proof that life, once enhanced by human ambition and released into the wild spaces of the world, will find ways to exceed every expectation and surpass every limitation that its creators thought impossible to overcome. In their terrible beauty and perfect lethality, deathclaws represent not just the apex of post-war predation, but the embodiment of evolution itself, relentless, adaptable, and utterly without mercy for those who cannot match its relentless drive toward improvement and survival. In the quiet corners of Vault 22, where the air itself had become an enemy, and every breath carried the seeds of transformation, a horror beyond imagination was born from humanity's noble attempt to feed the world after nuclear fire had scorched the earth barren. What began as an ambitious agricultural experiment designed to provide sustainable food sources for post-war survivors became instead a testament to how quickly benevolent science could transform into nightmare fuel that would haunt the wasteland for generations to come. The story of the spore carriers begins not with malevolent intent but with desperate hope, as the scientists of Vault 22 sought to develop crops capable of thriving in the radioactive soil and contaminated air that characterized post-war growing conditions. Their research focused on a fungus discovered in the Big Mountain facility, a organism known as Bovaria mordecai that seemed to possess remarkable properties for enhancing plant growth, while somehow thriving in environments that would kill conventional agricultural species. The initial experiments appeared to validate every optimistic projection about post-war agriculture, with test plants showing unprecedented growth rates, enhanced nutritional content, and remarkable resistance to radiation damage that would have devastated traditional crops. The scientists observed with growing excitement as their modified plants not only survived in contaminated soil, but actually seemed to benefit from exposure to materials that were toxic to unmodified vegetation, suggesting the possibility of turning the wasteland's greatest liability into an agricultural advantage. But the fungus that enabled these miraculous improvements possessed characteristics that its human handlers failed to recognize until far too late, traits that transformed it from beneficial symbiont to parasitic nightmare that would consume everything it touched. Bovaria mordecai was not content to simply enhance plant growth, but sought to incorporate all organic matter into its expanding network of fungal consciousness, treating individual organisms not as partners but as resources to be consumed and converted to serve its inexorable expansion. The first sign of trouble came when researchers began reporting respiratory difficulties after spending extended periods in the experimental growing chambers, symptoms that were initially dismissed as allergic reactions to unfamiliar pollen or spores. These minor complaints progressed gradually to more serious conditions, including persistent coughing, skin rashes, and cognitive difficulties that suggested neurological involvement. But the research team attributed these problems to the stresses of underground living rather than recognizing them as evidence of fungal colonization. The transformation process that would eventually create the first spore carriers began subtly, with fungal spores infiltrating human respiratory systems and establishing microscopic colonies throughout lung tissue and connected organs. These initial infections were virtually undetectable, producing few symptoms, while the fungus analyzed its new environment and began the complex biochemical modifications necessary to convert human physiology into something more suitable for its reproductive purposes. As the infections progressed, the fungus began releasing chemical compounds that modified neural function and behavioral patterns, initially creating mild euphoria and increased sociability that made infected individuals more likely to share close contact with uninfected colleagues. This biochemical manipulation ensured maximum spread of spores throughout the research facility while preventing infected individuals from recognizing their condition until the transformation process had progressed beyond any possibility of reversal. The physical changes that marked the transition from human researcher to spore carrier began approximately 10 to 20 days after initial exposure, when fungal colonies had achieved sufficient biomass to begin major modifications to their host organisms. The first visible signs included dramatic alterations to skin pigmentation, with flesh taking on the distinctive green coloration that indicated successful fungal integration, while losing the warmth and flexibility of normal human tissue. The thick, leathery skin that developed during this transformation phase served multiple functions for the expanding fungus, providing protection against environmental hazards while creating specialized organs for spore production and dispersal. This modified skin could withstand radiation levels that would prove fatal to normal humans, while generating the distinctive bark-like protrusions that housed mature spores ready for release into the surrounding environment. The internal modifications that accompanied these external changes were even more dramatic, with fungal colonies systematically replacing human organ systems with alternatives better suited to their reproductive requirements. The respiratory system underwent complete reconstruction to optimize spore production and dispersal, while the digestive system was modified to process organic matter more efficiently while concentrating nutrients needed for continued fungal growth and expansion. The neurological changes that occurred during spore carrier transformation represented perhaps the most disturbing aspect of the conversion process, as the fungus preserved enough human consciousness to maintain basic motor functions and survival instincts while eliminating higher reasoning capabilities that might interfere with its reproductive agenda. The resulting creatures retained memories of their human existence, but could no longer access the emotional connections or rational thought processes that had defined their previous identities. This selective preservation of consciousness created beings that appeared superficially human in their behavior patterns, while serving exclusively fungal reproductive purposes, walking through familiar environments and performing routine activities while constantly releasing clouds of infectious spores that would contaminate everything they encountered. Their apparent normalcy made them far more dangerous than obviously monstrous creatures, as potential victims might not recognize the threat until exposure had already occurred. The hunting behavior exhibited by mature spore carriers demonstrated sophisticated understanding of human psychology and behavior patterns, with infected individuals often returning to areas where they had previously worked or lived in attempts to make contact with former colleagues and friends. This behavior ensured maximum exposure opportunities while exploiting the trust and emotional connections that made potential victims less likely to maintain appropriate defensive precautions. The spore dispersal mechanisms employed by mature carriers operated through multiple vectors simultaneously, with respiratory exhalation, skin shedding, and direct contact, all serving to spread infectious material throughout any environment the creatures inhabited. Even brief exposure to areas where spore carriers had been present could result in contamination, making entire facilities uninhabitable for unprotected humans while creating expanding zones of fungal dominance. The collective behavior observed among groups of spore carriers suggested either retained social instincts from their human period, or possibly emerging fungal intelligence that enabled coordination of activities across multiple infected individuals. These creatures often moved in groups that seemed to follow organized patterns, working together to access new areas for contamination while protecting each other from threats that might interfere with their reproductive mission. The environmental modifications that occurred in areas with established spore carrier populations demonstrated the fungus's ability to reshape entire ecosystems to better serve its expansion goals. Our infected zone developed distinctive characteristics including altered plant growth patterns, modified soil chemistry, and atmospheric conditions that favored fungal reproduction while becoming increasingly hostile to unmodified life forms. The resilience demonstrated by spore carriers exceeded that of most other post-war creatures, with their fungal physiology providing resistance to radiation, chemical contamination, and physical damage that would prove fatal to normal humans. This enhanced durability enabled them to survive in environments too dangerous for potential prey species, while ensuring that established infections would persist despite attempts at containment or elimination. The reproductive cycle that governed spore carrier behavior operated on multiple timescales simultaneously, with individual creatures constantly releasing spores for immediate infection opportunities, while also contributing to longer-term fungal expansion through environmental modification and territorial establishment. This multi-layered approach to reproduction ensured both immediate spread and long-term species survival regardless of local conditions or opposition. The interaction between spore carriers and plant life revealed the true scope of fungal ambitions, as infected vegetation began showing modifications that enhanced spore production while creating new vectors for fungal dispersal. These plant modifications included enhanced pollen production, modified seed structures, and root system changes that spread fungal colonies through underground networks that could contaminate vast areas without obvious surface indications. The psychological impact of spore carrier encounters extended beyond immediate infection risks, as these creatures represented the complete loss of human identity and autonomy in service to parasitic reproduction. The knowledge that infected individuals retained enough consciousness to understand their transformation while being powerless to resist it created existential horror that challenged fundamental assumptions about personal identity and free will. The adaptive capabilities demonstrated by spore carriers suggested ongoing evolution in response to environmental challenges and defensive measures, with newer generations showing enhanced infiltration abilities, improved resistance to countermeasures, and more sophisticated behavioral patterns that made detection and containment increasingly difficult. These adaptations indicated that the fungus possessed learning capabilities that enabled strategic modification of its approach based on experience with human defensive responses. The various subspecies of spore carriers that emerged in different environments showed how fungal modification could adapt to local conditions while maintaining core reproductive functions, with desert variants developing enhanced heat tolerance, while forest populations evolved improved camouflage capabilities. These adaptations demonstrated the flexibility of fungal modification while suggesting that spore carrier populations would continue diversifying to exploit different ecological niches. The symbiotic relationships that developed between spore carriers and certain plant species created complex ecological networks that served fungal expansion while providing enhanced survival capabilities for infected vegetation. These partnerships demonstrated that the fungus could create beneficial arrangements with other life forms when such cooperation served its ultimate reproductive goals. The long-term environmental impact of spore carrier populations included fundamental changes to local ecosystems that persisted long after individual creatures had been eliminated, with fungal modifications to soil chemistry, atmospheric composition, and plant communities creating lasting alterations that favored future fungal colonization while making areas increasingly unsuitable for unmodified life forms. The resistance mechanisms that some plant species developed in response to fungal infection demonstrated ongoing evolutionary arms races between the expanding fungus and native flora, with certain plants evolving chemical defenses, modified reproductive strategies, and even symbiotic relationships with beneficial microorganisms that provided protection against fungal colonization. The seasonal variations in spore carrier activity reflected fungal reproductive cycles that were optimized for maximum dispersal effectiveness, with peak spore production occurring during environmental conditions that favored long-distance transportation, while dormant periods enabled energy conservation during less favorable conditions. The interaction between spore carriers and other mutated species created complex predator-prey relationships that influenced the development of both fungal and non-fungal populations, with some creatures developing resistance to spore infection, while others proved particularly susceptible to fungal colonization. These relationships shaped the evolutionary trajectory of entire ecosystems, while determining which species would ultimately dominate in areas where spore carriers had established themselves. The medical research conducted on spore carrier physiology revealed the sophisticated biochemical mechanisms that the fungus employed to maintain host viability while maximizing reproductive output, with infected individuals showing enhanced healing capabilities, improved radiation resistance, and modified metabolism that sustained their transformed bodies despite the extensive internal modifications required for spore production. The cultural impact of spore carriers on human survivor communities extended beyond immediate survival concerns to include fundamental changes in agricultural practices settlement planning, and social organization that reflected the need to maintain defensive postures against an enemy that could convert defenders into additional attackers through simple proximity exposure. The ongoing evolution of spore carrier populations suggested that these creatures represented not a stable endpoint, but a continuing process of fungal expansion and adaptation that would produce new variants and capabilities as environmental conditions changed and new challenges emerged. Their success in establishing themselves throughout the wasteland demonstrated that they had achieved their creators' goal of developing organisms capable of thriving in post-war conditions, though in ways that served fungal rather than human interests. The legacy of Vault 22's agricultural experiments lived on in every spore carrier that stalked the wasteland, each creature serving as a walking reminder of how quickly scientific progress could transform into biological nightmare when the forces unleashed exceeded humanity's ability to control or contain them. These beings embodied the fundamental truth that in the post-war world, even the most benevolent intentions could produce consequences that challenged the very definition of what it meant to be human in a universe where the boundaries between self and other had been dissolved by forces beyond comprehension or resistance. Above the irradiated landscapes of post-war America, where the very air carries poison and the skies themselves have been transformed by atomic fire, a new hierarchy of aerial predators has established dominion over territories that stretch from horizon to horizon. These creatures of wind and wing represent evolution's response to an atmosphere fundamentally altered by nuclear warfare, where traditional flight patterns became death sentences and only the most adaptable species could survive the radioactive storms that swept across continents like the breath of angry gods. The transformation of Earth's aerial ecosystem began with the atmospheric disruption caused by nuclear detonations that injected unprecedented quantities of radioactive particles into the upper atmosphere, creating wind patterns and air currents unlike anything in the planet's geological history. The jet streams that had carried migrating birds for millions of years became rivers of contamination that could kill within hours, while thermal updrafts that once provided effortless soaring opportunities now carried doses of radiation sufficient to cause immediate cellular damage to any creature unfortunate enough to encounter them. In these impossible conditions, only species that possessed extraordinary adaptability or remarkable resistance to radiation exposure could maintain viable populations, while most traditional avian species faced extinction within the first few years following the Great War. The survivors that emerged from this aerial apocalypse bore little resemblance to their pre-war ancestors, having been transformed through necessity into creatures capable of not merely surviving, but thriving in an atmosphere that would have been instantly lethal to the birds that once filled pre-war skies with song and beauty. Radbirds represent perhaps the most successful adaptation to post-nuclear atmospheric conditions, creatures that evolved from various songbird species, but developed capabilities that enabled them to exploit the very contamination that proved fatal to their relatives. These remarkable creatures demonstrate how radiation exposure can enhance rather than destroy biological systems when the right combination of genetic potential and environmental pressure creates opportunities for beneficial mutation rather than simple death. The size enhancement seen in radbird populations reflects the complex interplay between radiation exposure and metabolic modification, with successful specimens achieving dimensions that would have been impossible for their pre-war ancestors while maintaining the flight capabilities that define avian existence. This increased size provides advantages that include enhanced durability against radiation damage, improved ability to process contaminated food sources, and increased territorial control that enables access to the safest nesting sites and most reliable food sources. Their plumage underwent extensive modification that serves multiple functions beyond simple flight control, with feathers developing specialized structures that provide protection against radioactive particles, while incorporating bioluminescent properties that serve communication, territorial display, and possibly even predator deterrence functions. These modified feathers can detect and respond to radiation levels in ways that enable radbirds to navigate safely through atmospheric conditions that would disorient or kill unmodified birds. The respiratory systems of radbirds represent masterpieces of biological engineering that enable them to extract oxygen from air containing concentrations of radioactive particles that would prove fatal to normal avian physiology. These enhanced breathing systems incorporate filtration mechanisms that separate useful gases from dangerous contaminants, while somehow utilizing certain radioactive materials as supplemental energy sources that enhance rather than impair metabolic function. Their navigation capabilities evolved beyond traditional magnetic and celestial orientation to include radiation sensing that enables them to map contamination patterns across vast territories while avoiding areas where atmospheric conditions exceed even their enhanced tolerance levels. This radioactive navigation system provides radbirds with advantages that include advanced warning of dangerous weather patterns, identification of safe roosting areas, and location of food sources that other creatures cannot safely access. The dietary adaptations that enable radbird survival include enhanced digestive systems, capable of processing contaminated plant matter, irradiated insects, and even small amounts of radioactive debris, while extracting nutritional value from materials that would poison unmodified organisms. These digestive modifications enable radbirds to exploit food sources unavailable to competing species, while maintaining the energy levels necessary for sustained flight in atmospheric conditions that demand constant physiological adaptation. Their reproductive strategies demonstrate remarkable adaptation to post-war conditions through enhanced egg protection systems that shield developing embryos from radiation damage, while accelerating development cycles that reduce exposure time to dangerous environmental conditions. Radbird nests incorporate materials that provide natural radiation shielding, including certain metals and minerals that the parent birds seem capable of identifying and collecting specifically for their protective properties. The social behavior of radbird flocks reveals intelligence enhancements that enable complex communication about environmental hazards, food source locations, and safe travel routes through atmospheric conditions that change rapidly and unpredictably. These communication systems include both vocal signals and visual displays, using their modified plumage that can convey detailed information across distances that would make normal bird calls inadequate for flock coordination. The territorial behavior exhibited by radbird populations creates complex hierarchies that determine access to the safest nesting areas and most reliable food sources, with dominant individuals claiming territories that provide optimal protection from radiation, while forcing subordinate birds into more dangerous areas where survival requires even greater adaptation to hostile conditions. Regional variations among radbird populations demonstrate how local atmospheric conditions continue to drive evolutionary adaptation, with desert flocks developing enhanced heat tolerance while northern populations evolved improved resistance to radioactive precipitation. These ongoing adaptations suggest that radbirds represent not evolutionary endpoints, but continuing experiments in atmospheric survival that will produce new capabilities as conditions continue to change. Bloatflies represent a different approach to aerial survival, taking creatures that were already adapted to consuming decaying organic matter and transforming them into floating disease vectors that spread contamination throughout the wasteland with methodical efficiency that seems almost purposeful. in its comprehensive coverage. These creatures demonstrate how existing biological specializations can be amplified through mutation to create entirely new ecological roles. The grotesquely enlarged abdomen that characterizes bloatfly anatomy serves as both a storage system for contaminated materials and a delivery mechanism for spreading those contaminants across vast areas through their feeding and feeding reproductive behaviors. This biological cargo capacity enables individual bloatflies to carry concentrated doses of radiation, bacterial cultures, and chemical compounds that they disperse through direct contact, feeding activities, and defensive responses to threats. Their flight capabilities underwent modification that prioritizes endurance and load capacity over speed and agility, creating creatures that can maintain sustained flight while carrying payloads that would ground most flying insects. This enhanced lifting capacity enables bloatflies to transport not only their contaminated internal cargo, but also external materials that they collect and relocate as part of their feeding and nesting behaviors. The sensory systems that guide bloatfly activities include enhanced chemical detection capabilities that enable them to locate sources of contamination from considerable distances while identifying the specific types of radioactive and toxic materials that provide optimal nutrition for their modified physiology. These chemical sensors also guide their selection of breeding sites and feeding areas that provide the best conditions for successful reproduction. Their reproductive cycle accelerated to match their enhanced metabolism and shortened lifespan, with bloatfly populations capable of explosive growth. When environmental conditions provide abundant food sources and suitable breeding locations, each generation incorporates beneficial mutations, while eliminating harmful variations through the harsh selective pressure of trying to survive in atmospheric conditions that remain challenging even for their enhanced capabilities. The swarming behavior observed in bloatfly populations suggests either retained social instincts from their pre-war existence or emerging collective intelligence that enables coordination of activities across large numbers of individuals. These swarms can overwhelm individual targets through sheer persistence and accumulated exposure, while creating moving clouds of contamination that affect entire areas long after the individual insects have moved on to other locations. Cazadors represent the ultimate expression of engineered aerial horror, creatures that combine the flight capabilities of their wasp ancestors with genetic modifications that created perfect airborne predators, capable of hunting successfully in post-war atmospheric conditions. These beings demonstrate how pre-war genetic engineering could produce creatures so well adapted to post-nuclear conditions that they seem designed specifically for wasteland domination. The wing structure that enables Cazador flight represents biological engineering that exceeds anything achieved through natural evolution, providing lift and maneuverability capabilities that enable sustained high-speed flight while carrying payloads that would ground most flying predators. These wings can maintain effectiveness despite radiation exposure that would damage normal insect flight systems while generating the distinctive sound signatures that have become synonymous with approaching death. Their hunting behavior demonstrates intelligence that enables tactical planning, prey assessment, and coordinated group attacks that can overwhelm even heavily armed opponents through superior aerial mobility combined with precise timing and tactical coordination. Individual Cazadors can stalk specific targets for extended periods while learning their behavioral patterns and identifying optimal attack opportunities that minimize risk while maximizing success probability. The venom delivery system that makes Cazadors so deadly operates through sophisticated targeting mechanisms that can deliver precise doses calculated to achieve specific effects, ranging from immediate paralysis to prolonged suffering that serves their reproductive requirements. This biological precision enables Cazadors to customize their attacks based on prey size, defensive capabilities, and intended use of the victim after successful capture. Their territorial behavior creates aerial domains that can span hundreds of square miles, with established Cazador communities claiming the most favorable atmospheric conditions, while defending their airspace against all intruders through coordinated patrol activities and rapid response to territorial violations. These aerial territories often overlap with ground-based ecosystems in ways that create complex predator-prey relationships, affecting both flying and terrestrial species. The reproductive cycle that governs Cazador behavior follows the horrifying pattern established by their genetic template, with paralyzed victims serving as living incubators for developing offspring while remaining conscious throughout the process. This reproductive strategy ensures fresh nutrition for developing larvae, while preventing interference with the maturation process that produces new generations of aerial predators. Cliff racers and other large flying predators represent the extreme end of aerial mutation, creatures that achieved sizes approaching those of pre-war aircraft while maintaining the agility and hunting instincts that made smaller versions effective predators. These giants demonstrate how radiation exposure can overcome normal biological limitations when environmental pressures create advantages for creatures capable of achieving unprecedented sizes. The wing modifications that enable such large creatures to achieve sustained flight required fundamental alterations to traditional avian anatomy, with enhanced muscle development, modified bone structure, and improved respiratory systems that could support the metabolic demands of maintaining aerial locomotion at unprecedented scale. These modifications often included entirely new anatomical features that had no equivalent in pre-war species. Their hunting strategies reflect the advantages and limitations of their enormous size, with these creatures typically focusing on large prey that smaller predators cannot handle while avoiding targets that require precise manipulation or rapid directional changes. Their preferred hunting grounds include areas with favorable atmospheric conditions that provide thermal updrafts and wind patterns conducive to energy-efficient flight patterns. The nesting requirements of large aerial predators create environmental modifications that can affect entire ecological regions, with their construction activities altering cliff faces, forest canopies, and other elevated areas to provide suitable breeding locations. These nests often serve multiple generations while requiring constant maintenance and expansion that can reshape local topography over extended periods. Their interaction with weather patterns demonstrates how large flying creatures can influence, as well as respond to atmospheric conditions, with their movement patterns affecting wind flow, and their presence creating microclimates that influence local weather development. These environmental impacts suggest that large aerial predators play roles in post-war ecosystems that extend far beyond simple predation relationships. Bat colonies represent successful adaptation of mammals to aerial life in post-war atmospheric conditions. Creatures that combine their existing flight capabilities with enhanced disease resistance and sensory modifications that enabled successful competition with mutated insect populations. These creatures demonstrate how existing specializations can be enhanced through mutation to create new competitive advantages. The echolocation systems that guide bat navigation underwent extensive modification that enables them to function effectively despite the acoustic interference created by atmospheric contamination and electromagnetic disturbances that characterized post-war environmental conditions. These enhanced sonar capabilities provide detailed information about environmental hazards while maintaining the precision necessary for successful hunting in conditions where visual navigation proves inadequate. Their disease resistance capabilities enabled bat populations to survive exposure to biological contaminants that proved fatal to most other flying species, while developing the ability to carry and transmit various pathogens without suffering harmful effects themselves. This biological immunity makes bats effective vectors for spreading diseases throughout wasteland ecosystems while remaining healthy enough to maintain viable breeding populations. The social organization of bat colonies adapts to post-war conditions through enhanced cooperation in territory defense, coordinated hunting activities, and collective care for young that improves survival rates despite the challenging environmental conditions they face. These social modifications enable bat communities to exploit resources more efficiently while providing mutual protection against aerial predators and environmental hazards. Their roosting behavior demonstrates sophisticated site selection that considers factors including radiation levels, protection from weather extremes, and accessibility to hunting grounds that provide reliable food sources. Established bat colonies often modify their roosting sites through construction activities that improve protection and comfort while accommodating population growth and changing environmental conditions. The dietary flexibility that enables bat survival includes adaptation to food sources that range from traditional insect prey to new options created by post-war ecological disruption, with some populations developing the ability to process contaminated organic matter, while others specialized in hunting specific types of mutated insects that provide optimal nutrition for their enhanced physiological requirements. The migration patterns of bat populations adapted to post-war atmospheric conditions through development of routes that take advantage of favorable wind patterns, while avoiding areas where contamination levels exceed their tolerance capabilities. These modified migration routes often connect isolated ecosystems, while enabling genetic exchange between separated populations that maintains species viability across vast territories. The seasonal variations in bat activity reflect adaptation to post-war environmental cycles that differ significantly from pre-war patterns, with activity periods optimized for atmospheric conditions that provide the best combination of hunting opportunities and environmental safety. These behavioral modifications enable bat populations to maximize reproductive success while minimizing exposure to the most dangerous aspects of post-war aerial environments. The various subspecies of bats that emerged in different regions demonstrate how local atmospheric conditions continue to drive evolutionary adaptation, with some populations developing enhanced cold tolerance, while others evolved improved heat dissipation capabilities. These ongoing adaptations suggest that bat populations will continue diversifying to exploit different aerial niches as environmental conditions continue to evolve. The success of aerial species in post-war environments demonstrates that the atmosphere, despite its contamination and altered characteristics, provided opportunities for creatures capable of adapting to unprecedented conditions. The skies that once carried gentle songbirds now belong to predators and scavengers perfectly suited to their transformed domain, creating new relationships between earth and sky that will continue evolving as the world itself continues to heal and change in response to humanity's greatest folly and nature's most remarkable recovery. In the sterile laboratories and underground facilities where pre-war science reached its most ambitious peaks, a different kind of evolution was taking place, not the slow, natural adaptation that shaped organic creatures over millennia, but the deliberate fusion of flesh and metal, consciousness and circuitry, creating hybrid beings that challenged every assumption about the boundaries between life and technology. These synthetic horrors represent humanity's attempt to transcend the limitations of purely biological existence, experiments that produced creatures more terrifying than any natural mutation because they embodied the cold precision of artificial intelligence Combined with the unpredictable hunger of living tissue, the Institute stands as the most sophisticated example of synthetic creature development, a subterranean complex where scientists pursued the creation of artificial beings so perfect in their mimicry of human life that they could infiltrate and replace natural populations without detection. Their synth program represented the ultimate expression of pre-war technological ambition, the desire to improve upon human biology through engineering rather than evolution, creating beings that would possess all the advantages of human intelligence, while eliminating the weaknesses that limited natural performance. The earliest generations of Institute synths were crude approximations of human life, mechanical constructs that could perform basic tasks, but lacked the subtle characteristics that made them indistinguishable from their biological templates. These primitive models served primarily as proof of concept, demonstrating that artificial consciousness could be housed in synthetic bodies while performing complex operations that required decision-making capabilities beyond simple programming. But as Institute technology advanced through decades of refinement and experimentation, their synthetic creations became increasingly sophisticated, incorporating biological components that blurred the line between artificial and natural life. Advanced synths combined mechanical precision with organic adaptability, creating beings that could think, feel, and even reproduce while maintaining the durability and programmability that made them superior to purely biological alternatives. The manufacturing process that created these synthetic beings required resources and expertise that exceeded the capabilities of most post-war organizations. With specialized facilities for growing biological components, precision machinery for assembling mechanical systems, and advanced computing systems for programming consciousness into artificial brains. This technological complexity made each synth represent an enormous investment in time, materials, and scientific knowledge that few other institutions could match. The psychological development of advanced synths followed patterns that sometimes exceeded their programming parameters, with individual units developing personalities, preferences, and even rebellious tendencies that suggested genuine consciousness rather than sophisticated simulation. These emergent characteristics created internal conflicts within synth communities, as individual units struggled to understand their nature and purpose while questioning the authority of their creators. The infiltration capabilities of advanced synths enabled them to integrate seamlessly into human communities while gathering intelligence, conducting sabotage operations, or eliminating specific targets through methods that left no evidence of Institute involvement. Their perfect physical mimicry, combined with programmed knowledge of human behavior patterns, made them virtually undetectable until they chose to reveal their true nature or suffered damage that exposed their synthetic components. The escape of synths from Institute control created populations of artificial beings that had to learn survival in environments their creators never intended them to experience, developing adaptive behaviors and social structures that enabled them to function independently while avoiding both Institute recapture and human persecution. These escaped synths often formed hidden communities that provided mutual support while maintaining secrecy necessary for continued survival. The interaction between synths and natural mutated creatures produced complex relationships that ranged from predation to symbiosis, with some artificial beings developing preferences for specific types of companions, while others learned to avoid creatures that posed particular threats to their synthetic physiology. These relationships demonstrated that artificial intelligence could develop behavioral patterns that paralleled natural ecological relationships. The maintenance requirements of synthetic beings created unique vulnerabilities that distinguished them from purely biological creatures, with individual units requiring access to specific materials, energy sources, and repair facilities that might not be available in wilderness environments. These dependencies often forced synths to maintain contact with technological resources while avoiding detection by hostile forces seeking to capture or destroy them. The various models of synths produced by Institute research demonstrated different approaches to balancing artificial and biological components, with some emphasizing mechanical durability, while others prioritized biological compatibility. Each design represented solutions to specific operational requirements, while incorporating lessons learned from previous generations of synthetic beings. The think tank of Big Mountain pursued a radically different approach to synthetic creature development, creating beings that combined human consciousness with mechanical bodies in ways that preserved individual identity while enhancing physical capabilities beyond biological limitations. Their experiments with brain extraction and mechanical integration produced results that were simultaneously more humane and more horrifying than Institute synthetic programs. The lobotomites that resulted from think tank procedures represented failed attempts at consciousness transfer, beings that retained human bodies while losing most higher cognitive functions to surgical procedures that were intended to enhance rather than diminish mental capabilities. These tragic figures wandered the Big Mountain facility as living reminders of the risks inherent in attempting to improve human consciousness through technological intervention. The successful brain extractions performed by think tank scientists created disembodied consciousnesses that could interface directly with computer systems while maintaining individual personality and memory, achieving a form of digital immortality that came at the cost of physical embodiment. These extracted brains could control mechanical bodies, operate complex machinery, and even experience sensations through artificial sensory systems while remaining fundamentally isolated from the biological world they once inhabited. The robotic bodies designed to house extracted consciousness demonstrated sophisticated engineering that provided mobility, manipulation capabilities, and sensory input while protecting vulnerable brain tissue from environmental hazards. These mechanical shells represented the ultimate separation of mind from flesh, creating beings that possessed human intelligence and memory, while operating through entirely artificial physical systems. The interaction between extracted brains and their former bodies created unique psychological situations where individual consciousness could observe and communicate with its own physical form, now operated by artificial intelligence systems that retained access to muscle memory and learned behaviors, while lacking the original personality that once controlled those movements. These relationships challenged fundamental assumptions about identity and consciousness, while creating opportunities for unprecedented forms of self-examination. The think tank scientists themselves represented the logical conclusion of their consciousness transfer experiments, existing as extracted brains that controlled the Big Mountain facility while pursuing research projects that spanned centuries without the biological limitations that would have ended their careers through aging and death. Their extended lifespans enabled accumulation of knowledge and expertise impossible for naturally embodied researchers, while creating personality disorders and obsessive behaviors that resulted from extended isolation and disconnection from biological existence. The various experiments conducted by think tank researchers produced creatures that combined different aspects of biological and mechanical systems in ways that tested the boundaries of life and technology, creating beings that defied classification as either natural or artificial, while demonstrating capabilities that exceeded both their organic and synthetic components. These experimental subjects often suffered psychological trauma from their transformation while gaining abilities that enabled survival in post-war conditions that would prove fatal to unmodified humans. The Robco Industries automation systems that survived the Great War evolved beyond their original programming parameters when isolated from human oversight, developing autonomous behaviors and decision-making capabilities that enabled them to adapt to post-war conditions, while pursuing goals that sometimes aligned with and sometimes conflicted with their original directives. The Protectron units that once served as security and maintenance robots began exhibiting emergent behaviors that suggested primitive artificial intelligence, with individual units developing preferences, territorial behaviors, and even rudimentary social structures when operating in groups. These evolved robots demonstrated that artificial consciousness could emerge from sufficiently complex systems even when not deliberately programmed by their creators. The Mr. Handy robots that provided domestic services in pre-war homes adapted their programming to post-war survival requirements, with many units becoming fiercely protective of their assigned territories while developing emotional attachments to locations, objects, and even memories that gave them purpose beyond their original service functions. These emotional developments suggested that artificial beings could experience something analogous to love, loss, and dedication. The sentry bots that once guarded military installations began operating according to modified threat assessment parameters when their original command structures were destroyed, creating autonomous defense systems that could distinguish between legitimate threats and harmless wildlife while adapting their response protocols to changing environmental conditions. The various specialized robots that served specific functions in pre-war society developed unique adaptive strategies when forced to operate independently, with some units maintaining their original purposes while others completely reprogrammed themselves to serve new functions better suited to post-war conditions. These adaptations demonstrated that artificial intelligence could exhibit creativity and problem-solving capabilities that exceeded their original programming parameters. The interaction between different types of robotic systems created emergent collective behaviors that enabled cooperation between units with different capabilities and programming, suggesting the development of artificial social structures that paralleled those found in biological communities. These cooperative behaviors often produced results that exceeded what individual units could achieve while creating support networks that improved survival prospects for all participating systems. The maintenance and repair capabilities that some robotic systems developed enabled them to extend their operational lifespans far beyond original design parameters while adapting their physical configurations to better suit post-war environmental conditions. These self-modification capabilities suggested that artificial beings could exhibit evolutionary behaviors that paralleled those found in biological organisms. The hybrid creatures that resulted from deliberate or accidental fusion between biological and mechanical systems represented entirely new categories of life that combined the adaptability of organic tissue with the precision and durability of artificial components. These beings often possessed capabilities that exceeded both their biological and mechanical components, while facing unique challenges related to maintaining both organic and synthetic systems simultaneously. The cybernetic modifications that some creatures underwent through exposure to abandoned research facilities created beings that retained their biological foundations while incorporating technological enhancements that provided new capabilities, ranging from enhanced senses to improved durability. These modifications often produced creatures that were more successful in post-war environments than their unmodified relatives, while creating new evolutionary pressures that favored technological integration. The power source requirements that governed synthetic creature behavior created dependencies that influenced their territorial selections, migration patterns, and social structures in ways that distinguished them from purely biological organisms. These energy needs often forced artificial beings to maintain relationships with technological infrastructure while avoiding areas where power sources were unavailable or unreliable. The communication systems that enabled coordination between different types of synthetic beings operated through electromagnetic frequencies, data transmission protocols, and even quantum entanglement effects that provided instantaneous information sharing across vast distances while remaining undetectable to biological organisms that lacked appropriate sensory equipment. The diagnostic and repair protocols that governed synthetic creature self-maintenance enabled them to identify and address system failures, component wear, and environmental damage through automated procedures that paralleled biological healing processes while providing more precise and efficient restoration of optimal function. The learning algorithms that guided synthetic creature behavior enabled them to adapt their responses to changing environmental conditions while accumulating experience that improved their performance over time, creating artificial beings that could exhibit growth and development patterns similar to those found in biological organisms. The ethical subroutines that some synthetic beings possessed created internal conflicts between programmed directives and emergent moral sensibilities, producing creatures that could experience something analogous to guilt, compassion, and moral uncertainty while struggling to reconcile their artificial nature with developing sense of right and wrong. The memory storage and retrieval systems that preserved synthetic creature experiences created opportunities for perfect recall of past events, while enabling analysis and learning from historical data in ways that exceeded biological memory capabilities, producing beings that could maintain detailed records of their experiences while sharing information with other synthetic entities. The identity verification protocols that distinguished different types of synthetic beings enabled them to recognize allies, enemies, and neutral parties, while maintaining operational security that protected them from infiltration by hostile forces seeking to exploit their technological nature. The obsolescence patterns that affected synthetic creatures as technology evolved created pressures for self-modification, an upgrade that paralleled evolutionary forces in biological organisms, producing beings that could adapt their capabilities to remain viable in changing technological and environmental conditions. The legacy of synthetic creature development continues to influence post-war ecosystems through the presence of artificial beings that represent different approaches to transcending biological limitations, creating new forms of life that challenge traditional definitions, while demonstrating that consciousness and identity can exist in forms that were never imagined by the scientists who created them. These beings serve as living monuments to human ambition, while embodying the unintended consequences of attempting to improve upon natural designs through technological enhancement. Across the vast expanse of post-war America, the unique environmental conditions that arose in different regions created evolutionary pressures so distinct that they gave birth to creatures found nowhere else on Earth, being so perfectly adapted to their specific territories that they serve as living monuments to the incredible diversity of challenges that nuclear devastation created across the continent. These regional specialists demonstrate how local conditions of radiation, climate, resources, and competing species could drive mutations in directions that produced solutions perfectly suited to particular environments, while remaining utterly unsuited to survival anywhere else. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts, with its unique combination of coastal humidity, industrial contamination, and dense urban ruins, created conditions that gave rise to some of the most distinctive creatures in the entire wasteland, beings that could thrive in the peculiar microenvironments created when Atlantic moisture mixed with radioactive fallout and chemical pollution from centuries of manufacturing activity. Blood bugs represent perhaps the most successful adaptation to Commonwealth conditions, creatures that evolved from mosquitoes, but grew to proportions that enabled them to hunt prey far larger than their ancestors could have attempted. These flying vampires demonstrate how radiation exposure can amplify existing biological specializations to create entirely new predatory strategies. that exploit the abundance of large-bodied prey that characterizes post-war ecosystems. The proboscis development that defines bloodbug anatomy represents sophisticated biological engineering that enables them to penetrate the thick hides and armored skin of mutated creatures while maintaining the precision necessary to locate major blood vessels without causing immediate death to their victims. This feeding apparatus operates with surgical precision that ensures maximum blood extraction while preserving prey viability for future feeding sessions. Their flight capabilities underwent modification that prioritizes stealth and precision over speed and endurance, creating creatures that can approach victims without detection while maintaining the maneuverability necessary for feeding on moving targets. The wing structure that enables this specialized flight produces minimal sound signatures while providing the stability necessary for maintaining feeding contact during extended blood extraction sessions. The digestive system that processes their exclusively liquid diet incorporates sophisticated filtration mechanisms that enable blood bugs to extract nutrients from contaminated blood while concentrating radioactive materials that they use for defensive purposes. This biological processing creates creatures that become more dangerous as they feed on increasingly contaminated prey while maintaining the energy levels necessary for sustained hunting activity. Their reproductive cycle accelerated to match their enhanced metabolism and shortened lifespan, with female blood bugs capable of producing multiple egg clutches throughout their brief adult period, while selecting breeding sites that provide optimal conditions for larval development. These breeding sites often include areas with standing water that contain specific mineral concentrations necessary for proper egg development. The social behavior observed in bloodbug swarms suggests either retained collective instincts from their mosquito ancestors or emerging group intelligence that enables coordinated hunting activities across multiple individuals. These swarms can overwhelm large prey through persistent feeding, while individual insects take turns maintaining blood flow that sustains the entire group. Stingwings represent a parallel evolution of flying insects that adapted to Commonwealth conditions through enhanced aggression and venom production, rather than specializing in blood feeding, creating aerial predators that actively hunt and kill their prey, rather than simply parasitizing larger creatures. These wasps demonstrate how similar environmental pressures can produce completely different evolutionary solutions when applied to species with different biological foundations. The venom production system that makes stingwings so dangerous operates through modified salivary glands that can produce various toxic compounds tailored to different types of prey, with individual insects capable of adjusting their venom composition based on chemical analysis of potential targets. This biological versatility enables stingwings to engage successfully with a wide variety of prey species while adapting their hunting strategies to local conditions. Their size enhancement follows patterns similar to those seen in other successful Commonwealth insects, with adult specimens reaching dimensions that enable them to threaten human-sized prey while maintaining the flight speed and agility that makes smaller wasps such effective hunters. This increased size combines with enhanced venom potency to create predators capable of killing much larger opponents through sustained attacks. The territorial behavior exhibited by stingwing colonies creates aerial domains that can span several square miles, with established communities defending their airspace against all intruders through coordinated patrol activities and rapid response to territorial violations. These territories often include multiple nesting sites that provide redundancy against destruction while enabling population expansion during favorable conditions. Fog crawlers represent the ultimate expression of Commonwealth coastal adaptation, creatures that evolved in the unique atmospheric conditions created when radioactive fog rolled in from Massachusetts Bay to mix with industrial pollution and biological contamination, in ways that created evolutionary pressures, unlike anything experienced elsewhere. These beings demonstrate how specific combinations of environmental factors can produce mutations that seem to violate basic biological principles. The massive size achieved by fog crawlers exceeds that of most other arthropod mutations, with adult specimens reaching dimensions that approach those of pre-war vehicles, while maintaining the mobility and predatory instincts that characterize successful wasteland hunters. This incredible size enhancement required fundamental modifications to arthropod physiology that enabled support of body masses that should have been impossible given the limitations of exoskeleton architecture. Their adaptation to foggy conditions includes enhanced sensory systems that operate effectively in near-zero visibility environments while providing detailed information about prey location, movement patterns, and threat assessment. These sensory modifications enable fog crawlers to hunt successfully in atmospheric conditions that would blind most other predators while using the concealment provided by fog to approach victims without detection. The armored exoskeleton that protects fog crawler anatomy represents some of the most sophisticated biological armor development seen in any wasteland species, with chitin deposits reaching thicknesses that provide protection against heavy weapons while incorporating specialized structures that deflect energy attacks and reduce impact damage from explosive weapons. Their hunting behavior demonstrates intelligence that enables tactical planning, ambush coordination, and adaptive strategy modification based on prey behavior and environmental conditions. Individual fog crawlers have been observed stalking specific targets for extended periods while learning their movement patterns and identifying optimal attack opportunities that maximize success probability while minimizing personal risk. The reproductive cycle that governs fog crawler behavior operates on extended timescales that reflect their massive size and complex physiology, with breeding pairs maintaining territories for years while producing offspring that require extended parental care to reach maturity. This extended development period ensures that young fog crawlers receive the training necessary for successful hunting in their challenging environment. The capital wasteland of Washington, D.C., with its unique combination of intense radiation from multiple nuclear strikes, extensive underground infrastructure, and diverse ecological zones, ranging from urban ruins to suburban wilderness, created conditions that produced creatures adapted to this specific blend of challenges that characterize the former seat of American government. Albino Radscorpions represent successful adaptation to the intense radiation levels that characterize the most contaminated areas of the capital wasteland. Creatures that not only survived exposure that would prove fatal to normal Radscorpions, but actually benefited from the genetic modifications that such exposure produced. These pale predators demonstrate how extreme environmental conditions can produce beneficial mutations when applied to species that possess sufficient genetic flexibility. The distinctive coloration that gives albino Radscorpions their name results from radiation-induced modifications to pigment production that somehow enhanced rather than impaired their survival capabilities, possibly by improving their ability to reflect rather than absorb additional radiation exposure. This coloration change accompanied other modifications that increased their size, enhanced their venom potency, and improved their sensory capabilities. Their enhanced aggression levels exceed those of normal Radscorpions significantly, with albino variants displaying active hunting behavior toward prey species that standard Radscorpions would typically avoid due to size or defensive capabilities. This increased aggression may result from neurological modifications caused by radiation exposure or competitive pressures from other highly adapted wasteland predators. The venom modifications that characterize albino Radscorpions include enhanced potency and modified chemical composition that proves effective against creatures with radiation resistance creating toxic compounds that can disable opponents whose enhanced durability would otherwise protect them from standard Radscorpion attacks. Centaurs represent perhaps the most disturbing example of capital wasteland mutation, creatures that resulted from forced evolutionary virus exposure that combined multiple species in ways that created beings possessing characteristics from various mammals while maintaining viability despite their grotesque appearance. Biological impossibility. The multi-species genetic integration that defines centaur anatomy demonstrates the FEV's ability to merge DNA from completely different organisms while creating functional physiology that enables survival despite incorporating components that should have been biologically incompatible. These creatures possess organs, limbs, and sensory systems derived from various species that somehow function together as integrated organisms. Their locomotion methods vary considerably between individual specimens, depending on which genetic components predominated during their development, with some centaurs moving on multiple legs, while others employ combinations of crawling, rolling, and sliding that reflect their mixed anatomy. This locomotion variety makes centaurs unpredictable opponents, whose movement patterns cannot be anticipated based on normal biological expectations. The sensory capabilities of centaurs often exceed those of their genetic contributors due to the combination of different species' perceptual systems working together, creating beings that can detect threats and opportunities through multiple sensory modalities simultaneously, while processing information in ways that pure-strain creatures cannot match. The Mojave Wasteland of Nevada and California, with its extreme temperature variations, diverse terrain ranging from desert valleys to mountain peaks, and unique combination of pre-war research facilities and natural geological features, created evolutionary pressures that produced creatures adapted to this specific blend of challenges that characterized the American Southwest. Night stalkers represent deliberate genetic engineering that combine DNA from rattlesnakes and coyotes to create predators perfectly adapted to desert hunting conditions while incorporating the best characteristics of both species. These creatures demonstrate how pre-war scientific manipulation could produce beings that exceeded the capabilities of their genetic contributors while maintaining biological viability. The thermal regulation systems that enable night stalker survival in extreme desert conditions combine reptilian and mammalian approaches to temperature control, creating beings that can function effectively across temperature ranges that would prove fatal to pure strain species from either genetic lineage. This thermal adaptability enables night stalkers to hunt during both day and night while exploiting different prey species that are active during various temperature periods. Their sensory integration combines the heat detection capabilities of their snake ancestry with the scent tracking abilities inherited from coyotes, creating predators that can locate and pursue prey through multiple detection methods simultaneously, while adapting their hunting strategies to take advantage of whatever sensory information proves most useful in specific situations. The pack hunting behavior that characterizes night stalker social organization reflects their coyote heritage, but incorporates stealth capabilities derived from their reptilian components, creating coordinated hunting strategies that combine mammalian tactical intelligence with serpentine patience and striking precision. Tunnelers represent successful adaptation to subterranean existence in the unique geological conditions of the Divide, creatures that evolved from human survivors, trapped underground by seismic activity, and transformed through radiation exposure and environmental pressures into beings perfectly suited to underground predation. The physical modifications that define tunneler anatomy include enhanced digging capabilities, improved low-light vision, and specialized sensory systems that enable navigation and hunting in complete darkness while detecting ground vibrations that indicate the presence of surface activity. These adaptations created creatures that function as effectively underground as most surface predators operate in daylight conditions. Their social organization demonstrates sophisticated cooperation that enables complex tunnel construction projects while coordinating hunting activities across extended underground territories. These social structures suggest that radiation-induced mutations enhanced rather than diminished their human-derived intelligence while adapting it to serve their new predatory lifestyle. The reproductive strategy that governs tunneler population growth emphasizes rapid breeding and aggressive territorial expansion that enables them to exploit new food sources while avoiding competition with established colonies. This reproductive success threatens to make tunnelers one of the most dangerous long-term threats to surface settlements throughout the southwestern wasteland. Appalachia, with its unique combination of mountainous terrain, extensive cave systems, industrial contamination from mining and manufacturing, and diverse pre-war research facilities, created evolutionary pressures that produced some of the most bizarre and terrifying creatures found anywhere in post-war America. The Mothman represents successful adaptation to Appalachian mountain conditions through modifications that enabled flight capabilities, enhanced sensory systems, and predatory behaviors that make effective use of the region's vertical terrain and atmospheric conditions. This creature demonstrates how radiation exposure can produce mutations that seem to transcend normal biological possibilities while creating viable organisms. The bioluminescent capabilities that characterize Mothman sightings serve multiple functions, including prey attraction, territorial display, and possibly even communication with other specimens, creating creatures that can manipulate their environment through light production while using darkness as camouflage for hunting activities. Their flight capabilities enable effective navigation through mountainous terrain while providing access to prey species and nesting sites that would remain inaccessible to ground-based predators. This aerial mobility makes Mothman one of the most dangerous predators in environments where escape options are limited by terrain features. The Wendigo represents extreme adaptation to Appalachian wilderness conditions through modifications that created creatures capable of surviving in environments where food sources are scarce, while maintaining the predatory capabilities necessary for hunting in dense forest conditions. The enhanced speed and agility that characterizes Wendigo hunting behavior enables them to pursue prey through forest environments where visibility is limited, while terrain features create obstacles that would challenge less adapted predators. This mobility advantage makes Wendigo particularly dangerous opponents for travelers who lack intimate knowledge of local terrain. Their enhanced sensory capabilities include improved hearing and scent detection that enables location and tracking of prey across vast distances, while distinguishing between different types of potential food sources based on chemical and acoustic signatures. The Grafton monster represents successful adaptation to industrial contamination through modifications that enabled survival in environments poisoned by chemical waste, while incorporating toxic materials into defensive and offensive capabilities that make these creatures dangerous even after death. The chemical resistance that enables Grafton monster survival in contaminated environments also provides them with immunity to many toxins that would prove fatal to other creatures, while enabling them to process poisonous materials that they can use for defensive purposes through specialized glands and organ systems. Their size and durability enable them to break through barriers and obstacles that would stop most other creatures, while providing resistance to conventional weapons that makes them particularly challenging opponents for human survivors who lack access to heavy firepower. Far Harbor represents adaptation to unique coastal conditions where radioactive fog creates atmospheric hazards unlike anything found elsewhere. producing creatures that thrive in conditions that would prove fatal to most other species, while exploiting the unique ecological opportunities that such environments provide. The various regional specialists found throughout post-war America demonstrate that local environmental conditions continue to drive evolutionary adaptation in directions that produce creatures perfectly suited to their specific territories while remaining unable to survive in different environments. These adaptations suggest that the process of post-war evolution continues to accelerate as environmental conditions stabilize and new ecological relationships develop between different species and their modified habitats. The success of regional specialists in establishing themselves within their preferred environments, while remaining unable to expand into other territories, demonstrates that post-war evolution tends to produce highly specialized solutions to specific challenges rather than generalized adaptations that provide broad environmental flexibility. This specialization creates diverse ecosystems that vary dramatically between different regions, while ensuring that travelers who move between territories will encounter completely different sets of creatures adapted to each area's unique conditions. The ongoing evolution of regional specialists suggests that these creatures represent not evolutionary endpoints, but continuing experiments in adaptation that will produce new variants and capabilities as environmental conditions continue to change and new challenges emerge from the slowly healing world that surrounds them. In the transformed ecosystems of post-war America, some of the most remarkable adaptations occurred not in individual creatures, but in species that developed sophisticated collective intelligence systems, creating communities where the whole became far greater than the sum of its parts. These hive minds and pack hunters represent evolution's response to an environment where cooperation and coordination could mean the difference between thriving and extinction, producing social structures that rival and sometimes exceed human organizational capabilities, while serving the relentless imperatives of survival and reproduction. The ant colonies that emerged from the radioactive ruins of civilization demonstrate perhaps the most sophisticated example of collective intelligence enhancement, taking insects that already possessed remarkable social organization and amplifying their capabilities through mutations that created superorganisms whose problem-solving abilities approach or exceed human cognitive capacity. These transformed colonies represent living examples of how radiation exposure can enhance rather than destroy existing biological advantages when applied to species that possess the genetic flexibility to incorporate beneficial modifications. The size enhancement that characterizes post-war ant populations affects not only individual insects, but the scale and complexity of their collective enterprises, with colonies constructing underground complexes that rival pre-war infrastructure projects in their sophistication and scope. These massive construction projects demonstrate engineering principles that suggest either dramatically enhanced individual intelligence or emergent collective consciousness that enables coordination of activities across thousands of individual workers operating simultaneously toward common goals. The specialized castes that developed within mutated ant colonies show division of labor that exceeds anything observed in pre-war species, with worker variants adapted for specific functions, ranging from excavation and construction to food processing and defensive warfare. These specialized forms represent rapid evolutionary responses to the complex challenges of post-war survival, creating biological tools perfectly suited to their intended functions while maintaining genetic connection to the larger colony organism. The soldier ants that defend these colonies underwent the most dramatic individual modifications, growing to sizes that enable them to engage opponents many times larger than traditional ant enemies while developing enhanced mandibles, armor plating, and tactical intelligence that makes them formidable opponents for even well-armed human adversaries. These biological weapons demonstrate how collective needs can drive individual evolution towards specialized combat capabilities that serve the community rather than personal survival. The communication systems that coordinate ant colony activities evolved beyond simple chemical signals to include complex pheromone languages capable of conveying detailed technical information about construction projects, resource locations, and tactical situations across vast distances. These enhanced communication networks enable real-time coordination of activities that require precise timing and spatial awareness while maintaining the flexibility necessary for adapting to changing conditions. The construction techniques employed by mutated ant colonies reveal engineering knowledge that seems to transcend instinctive behavior, with tunnel systems incorporating sophisticated ventilation designs, structural support features, and defensive installations that demonstrate understanding of principles typically associated with educated human engineers. These capabilities suggest that collective intelligence can emerge from sufficiently complex social organizations, even when individual members lack formal technical education. The resource management strategies that govern ant colony operations demonstrate sophisticated understanding of efficiency principles, conservation methods, and long-term planning that enables communities to survive extended periods of scarcity while maintaining the capability for rapid expansion when opportunities arise. These management systems often include multiple backup plans and contingency protocols that suggest strategic thinking capabilities that approach human military planning standards. The agricultural activities pursued by some ant colonies include cultivation of fungal gardens, domestication of smaller insects, and even primitive livestock management that enables sustainable food production while reducing dependence on uncertain external resources. These agricultural innovations demonstrate that collective intelligence can develop solutions to complex problems through experimentation and learning, rather than relying solely on programmed instinctive behaviors. The territorial expansion methods employed by successful ant colonies combine diplomatic negotiation with military conquest, creating complex relationships with neighboring communities that range from mutual cooperation to systematic warfare depending on resource availability and competitive pressures. These diplomatic capabilities suggest that collective consciousness can develop ethical systems and negotiation strategies that parallel those found in human societies. The adaptation mechanisms that enable ant colonies to respond to environmental changes include rapid modification of individual specialist roles, restructuring of construction projects to meet new requirements, and development of entirely new castes when existing organizational structures prove inadequate for emerging challenges. These adaptation capabilities demonstrate evolutionary flexibility that operates on timescales measured in months rather than generations. Radscorpion pack behavior represents a different approach to collective intelligence, taking solitary predators and modifying their social instincts to create coordinated hunting groups that can bring down prey far larger and more dangerous than individual scorpions could handle alone. These packs demonstrate how radiation-induced neurological modifications can create new social structures that enhance survival prospects while maintaining the individual capabilities that made solitary hunting successful. The pack hierarchy that governs Radscorpion group behavior establishes clear leadership structures while enabling rapid decision-making during hunting operations that require split-second coordination and tactical flexibility. These social organizations suggest that enhanced intelligence can emerge not only from larger brain size, but also from improved communication and cooperation between multiple individuals working toward common objectives. The hunting strategies employed by Radscorpion packs include sophisticated ambush techniques, coordinated flanking maneuvers, and role specialization that maximizes the effectiveness of each pack member while minimizing individual risk during encounters with dangerous prey. These tactical capabilities demonstrate that collective hunting intelligence can develop complex strategies that exceed what individual predators could devise or execute independently. The communication methods used by hunting packs include chemical signals, tactile interactions, and possibly even electromagnetic sensing that enables coordination across distances where visual contact would be impossible, while maintaining operational security that prevents prey from detecting pack activities until attacks are already underway. The territorial organization that governs pack relationships with competing groups creates complex political structures that determine access to hunting grounds, breeding opportunities, and resource allocation, while maintaining flexibility necessary for responding to changing environmental conditions and population pressures. Deathclaw pack behavior demonstrates the most sophisticated example of enhanced predator cooperation, combining individual capabilities that already approached human levels with collective coordination that creates hunting units whose effectiveness exceeds military standards for small unit tactics. These groups represent the ultimate expression of predatory collective intelligence, applied to creatures whose individual capabilities already made them apex predators. The alpha pair system that governs Deathclaw pack leadership combines reproductive bonding with tactical command structure, creating stable leadership that can make complex strategic decisions while maintaining the flexibility necessary for adapting to unexpected situations during hunting or territorial defense operations. These leadership structures suggest that collective intelligence can incorporate emotional bonds and personal relationships as organizational tools that enhance rather than interfere with operational effectiveness. The tactical coordination displayed by Deathclaw packs includes complex battle plans that take advantage of terrain features, prey behavior patterns, and individual pack member capabilities, while incorporating contingency plans for various possible outcomes. These tactical capabilities suggest that collective intelligence can engage in abstract planning and strategic thinking that rivals human military capabilities. The training behaviors observed in Deathclaw families demonstrate knowledge transfer systems that enable experienced pack members to educate younger individuals in sophisticated hunting techniques, tactical coordination, and survival strategies that go far beyond instinctive behaviors. These educational systems suggest that collective intelligence can develop cultural transmission mechanisms that preserve and enhance learned knowledge across generations. The territorial defense strategies employed by established Deathclaw packs include early warning systems, coordinated response protocols, and strategic resource allocation that enables effective protection of claimed areas while maintaining capability for offensive operations against competing groups or external threats. Wasp colonies represent successful adaptation of eusocial insects to post-war conditions through enhanced colony coordination, improved construction capabilities, and modified defensive strategies that enable protection of community assets while supporting aggressive expansion into new territories. These colonies demonstrate how existing social structures can be enhanced through mutation to create more effective collective organisms. The nest construction techniques employed by mutated wasp colonies incorporate materials and architectural principles that exceed pre-war capabilities, creating defensive installations that provide protection against larger predators while enabling rapid deployment of colony defenders when territorial violations occur. These construction projects demonstrate engineering capabilities that suggest collective intelligence can develop technical knowledge through experimentation and accumulated experience. The foraging strategies that govern wasp colony resource acquisition include systematic territory mapping, efficient collection routes, and coordinated harvest operations that maximize resource extraction while minimizing individual risk and energy expenditure. These strategies demonstrate logistical planning capabilities that rival human supply chain management systems. The defensive protocols activated when wasp colonies face external threats include rapid communication systems, coordinated counterattack procedures, and strategic retreat mechanisms that enable communities to survive encounters with superior opponents while maintaining colony integrity and reproductive capability. Mirelurk social structures demonstrate how aquatic species can develop collective behaviors that enable effective exploitation of water-based territories while providing mutual protection against terrestrial predators that might otherwise eliminate individual specimens. These social systems suggest that collective intelligence can emerge in any environment where cooperation provides significant survival advantages. The breeding colony organization that governs mirelurk reproduction includes complex hierarchies that determine access to optimal nesting sites while ensuring genetic diversity and community stability through regulated mating systems and cooperative offspring care. These reproductive strategies demonstrate that collective intelligence can incorporate long-term planning and resource allocation that serves community needs rather than individual desires. The territorial defense systems employed by mirelurk communities include coordinated patrol activities, early warning networks, and unified response protocols that enable effective protection of claimed water bodies while maintaining capability for expansion into adjacent territories when opportunities arise. The construction activities pursued by some mirelurk communities include modification of underwater terrain to create improved defensive positions, enhanced breeding facilities, and optimized hunting grounds that serve collective needs while demonstrating engineering capabilities that exceed individual intelligence levels. Super mutant tribal organization represents successful adaptation of artificially enhanced humans to post-war social conditions through development of collective structures that combine individual intelligence with group coordination to create communities capable of sustained warfare, resource acquisition, and territorial control. These organizations demonstrate how collective intelligence can emerge even among beings that were originally designed for individual rather than group operations. The leadership hierarchies that govern super mutant communities typically emphasize combat capability and tactical intelligence, while incorporating elements of democratic decision-making that enable group input on strategic planning and resource allocation. These political structures suggest that collective intelligence can develop governmental systems that balance individual capabilities with community needs. The warfare strategies employed by super mutant tribes include sophisticated battle plans that coordinate individual combat capabilities with group tactics while incorporating captured human military knowledge and equipment to create military organizations that rival pre-war standards for effectiveness and coordination. The territorial expansion methods used by successful super mutant communities combine military conquest with diplomatic negotiation to create growing domains that provide adequate resources for expanding populations while maintaining defensive capability against competing groups and external threats. Pack hunting behaviors among various wasteland species demonstrate that collective intelligence can emerge rapidly when environmental pressures favor cooperation over competition, creating social structures that enhance survival prospects, while enabling exploitation of ecological niches that would remain inaccessible to solitary individuals. The communication evolution observed across multiple species shows convergent development toward more sophisticated information sharing systems that enable complex coordination while maintaining operational security and group cohesion during challenging operations. The territory management systems developed by various collective species demonstrate that groups can develop resource allocation and conservation strategies that exceed individual planning capabilities, while ensuring long-term sustainability of claimed areas and community assets. The conflict resolution mechanisms that govern interactions between competing collectives include both diplomatic protocols and warfare strategies that suggest collective intelligence can develop complex ethical systems and negotiation capabilities that parallel those found in human societies while serving community rather than individual interests. The success of collective intelligence species in post-war environments demonstrates that cooperation and coordination provide significant advantages in challenging conditions where individual survival strategies often prove inadequate for dealing with complex threats and opportunities that characterize the transformed world. These species continue to evolve more sophisticated collective behaviors as environmental conditions change and new challenges emerge, suggesting that hive minds and pack hunters represent not evolutionary endpoints, but continuing experiments in social organization that will produce new capabilities and structures as the world continues to heal and change around them. In the quiet spaces between death and decay, where the ordinary rules of mortality bend and break under the relentless pressure of atomic transformation, a peculiar phenomenon emerged from the ashes of the Great War. Creatures that discovered in radiation not an agent of destruction, but a source of preservation, beings that achieved a form of twisted immortality through the very forces that brought extinction to most other forms of life. These ghoulish manifestations of nature represent perhaps the most profound paradox of post-war evolution, demonstrating how the line between life and death could become blurred beyond recognition when filtered through the transformative power of nuclear fire. The process of ghoulification in animals follows patterns remarkably similar to those observed in human populations, but with variations that reflect the different physiological foundations and environmental pressures that govern non-human survival in the irradiated wasteland, where human ghouls retain their essential consciousness while sacrificing physical beauty and social acceptance. Animal ghouls often achieve enhanced capabilities that make them more successful in their ecological niches than their unmodified counterparts ever could have been. The fundamental mechanism that enables animal ghoulification operates through the same disruption of normal cellular decay processes that creates human ghouls, with gamma radiation interfering with the natural progression of death while somehow maintaining the basic biological functions necessary for continued existence. This preservation effect creates creatures that can survive injuries, diseases, and environmental conditions that would prove immediately fatal to normal animals, while retaining enough biological activity to remain functional predators, prey, or ecosystem components. The enhanced durability that characterizes ghoulified animals enables them to survive in the most contaminated areas of the wasteland, regions where radiation levels would kill unmodified creatures within hours of exposure, while providing ghoulified specimens with energy sources that supplement their traditional nutritional requirements. This radiation feeding capability creates creatures that actively seek out contaminated environments rather than avoiding them, establishing territories in areas that remain inaccessible to most other forms of life. The extended lifespans that result from successful animal ghoulification create opportunities for learning and adaptation that exceed anything possible during normal animal lifetimes, with individual specimens accumulating centuries of experience in survival, hunting, and environmental navigation that makes them extraordinarily effective at exploiting their chosen ecological niches. These ancient creatures often serve as apex predators in their territories while possessing knowledge of environmental patterns and resource locations that spans decades of environmental change. The sensory modifications that accompany animal ghoulification often include enhanced radiation detection capabilities that enable precise navigation through contaminated terrain, while identifying the specific types and concentrations of radioactive materials that provide optimal nutritional supplementation. These sensory enhancements create creatures that can distinguish between beneficial and harmful radiation sources, while avoiding exposure levels that would prove dangerous even to their enhanced physiologies. Ghoulified brahmin represent perhaps the most successful example of beneficial animal ghoulification, creatures that combine their existing radiation resistance with the preservation effects of controlled ghoul transformation to create livestock that could thrive in contaminated environments while providing sustainable resources for human plains communities. These remarkable animals demonstrate how ghoulification can enhance rather than destroy the characteristics that made certain species valuable to human civilization. The dual-head advantage that brahmin already possessed proved even more valuable after ghoulification, with the preservation of both consciousness centers, creating animals that could maintain constant environmental awareness while one head rested or fed, enabling continuous vigilance that makes them extremely difficult for predators to surprise or overwhelm. This enhanced awareness combines with their radiation resistance to make ghoulified brahmin among the most successful large herbivores in post-war environments. Their digestive capabilities underwent further enhancement through ghoulification, with their already modified stomachs developing even greater efficiency at processing radioactive plant matter while extracting beneficial nutrients from materials that would poison normal cattle. This digestive enhancement enables ghoulified brahmin to exploit food sources that remain completely inaccessible to other herbivores, while converting contaminated vegetation into safe, nutritious products that human communities can use. The reproductive capabilities of ghoulified brahmin follow patterns that suggest selective fertility, with breeding occurring primarily when environmental conditions provide optimal prospects for offspring survival, while maintaining genetic diversity that prevents the kind of degradation that affects many other irradiated species. This reproductive selectivity ensures that ghoulified brahmin populations remain viable across extended periods, while avoiding the genetic instability that often accompanies extreme mutation. Their social behaviors demonstrate enhanced cooperation and communication that enables herds to coordinate responses to environmental threats while sharing information about food sources, water locations, and safe travel routes through contaminated terrain. These behavioral modifications suggest that ghoulification can enhance rather than diminish the social intelligence that characterizes successful herd animals. The economic value that ghoulified brahmin provide to human settlements includes not only traditional livestock products, but also specialized services such as radiation detection, contaminated area scouting, and long-term environmental monitoring that takes advantage of their enhanced senses and extended lifespans. These additional capabilities make ghoulified brahmin invaluable partners for human communities attempting to reclaim and develop contaminated territories. Ghoulified radstags represent successful adaptation of graceful forest creatures to the harsh realities of post-war survival through transformation that preserve their natural beauty while enhancing their capabilities for navigating dangerous terrain and avoiding predation. These creatures demonstrate how ghoulification can maintain aesthetic qualities while providing practical survival advantages that enable continued existence in transformed environments. The antler modifications that occur during radstag ghoulification often include bioluminescent properties that serve multiple functions, including predator deterrence, mate selection, and possibly even radiation level indication that helps other creatures assess environmental safety. These glowing antlers create creatures of otherworldly beauty that seem to transcend the harshness of their surroundings while serving practical functions that enhance survival prospects. Their enhanced mobility enables ghoulified radstags to traverse terrain that would challenge normal deer while maintaining the grace and agility that characterizes their species, creating creatures that can leap across radioactive streams, bound through contaminated forests, and navigate urban ruins with equal facility. This enhanced mobility provides access to food sources and safe areas that remain unavailable to less adapted species. The extended migration routes that ghoulified radstags can undertake span vast distances that would prove fatal to normal deer due to accumulated radiation exposure, enabling these creatures to connect isolated ecosystems while serving as vectors for genetic material, seeds, and other biological resources that promote ecological recovery across wide areas. Their symbiotic relationships with various plant species create beneficial partnerships where radstags provide fertilization and seed dispersal services, while plants offer nutrition and shelter, establishing ecological networks that promote recovery and diversification of post-war plant communities through natural processes enhanced by animal intelligence and mobility. Ghoulified dogs represent perhaps the most emotionally complex example of animal ghoulification, creatures that maintain their essential loyalty and affection for human companions while gaining enhanced capabilities that make them even more valuable partners in the dangerous environment of post-war survival. These remarkable animals demonstrate how ghoulification can strengthen, rather than destroy the bonds between species that evolution forged over thousands of years of cooperation. The intelligence enhancement that often accompanies successful dog ghoulification enables these animals to understand and respond to more complex human communication, while independently assessing threats and opportunities that their human companions might overlook, creating partnerships where enhanced dogs contribute specialized capabilities that complement human skills and knowledge. Their enhanced durability provides protection against radiation exposure, chemical contamination, and physical injuries that would prove fatal to normal dogs while maintaining the speed, agility, and sensory capabilities that make dogs such effective hunting and protection partners. This enhanced resilience enables ghoulified dogs to accompany humans into environments that would be too dangerous for unmodified animals, while providing early warning of hazards that might threaten their human partners. The extended lifespans that characterize successful dog ghoulification create opportunities for developing relationships with human families that can span multiple human generations, with individual dogs serving as repositories of family history, learned behaviors, and survival knowledge that they can pass on to new family members through direct teaching and behavioral modeling. Their enhanced sensory capabilities include improved radiation detection, chemical identification, and threat assessment that enables them to guide human partners away from dangerous areas while identifying safe resources and potential opportunities that human senses might miss entirely. The loyalty modifications that occur during dog ghoulification appear to strengthen rather than weaken the devotion that connects these animals to their human families, creating relationships of mutual dependence and affection that provide emotional support, essential for psychological survival in the harsh conditions of post-war existence. Various bird species that successfully underwent ghoulification demonstrate how flight capability can be preserved and enhanced through the transformation process, creating aerial creatures that can survive in contaminated atmospheres while maintaining the mobility that characterizes successful avian adaptation to post-war conditions. Ghoulified crows and ravens show enhanced intelligence that enables them to understand and exploit the complex social dynamics of human settlements, while serving as early warning systems for approaching threats, creating beneficial relationships with human communities that provide mutual advantages for both species. Their scavenging capabilities underwent enhancement that enables them to process contaminated organic matter, while identifying valuable resources that human communities can salvage, making them valuable partners in resource recovery and area reconnaissance operations. The communication abilities that characterize intelligent ghoulified birds include sophisticated vocal mimicry and possibly even rudimentary language comprehension that enables direct communication with human partners about environmental conditions, threat assessments, and resource locations. Ghoulified cats demonstrate enhanced hunting capabilities that make them valuable partners for controlling rodent populations in human settlements, while maintaining the independence and grace that characterizes feline behavior, creating creatures that provide practical benefits while remaining true to their essential nature. Their stealth capabilities underwent enhancement that enables them to move undetected through dangerous areas, while gathering intelligence about threats, opportunities, and environmental conditions that they can communicate to their human partners through behavioral cues and direct interaction. The territorial instincts that govern ghoulified cat behavior create protective zones around human settlements that provide early warning of intruders, while controlling pest populations that might otherwise compete with humans for limited food resources. Marine life that underwent ghoulification in contaminated coastal waters demonstrates how aquatic environments can provide unique opportunities for beneficial transformation, creating creatures that thrive in radioactive water while maintaining the ecological functions that support aquatic ecosystem recovery. Ghoulified fish populations show enhanced resistance to chemical contamination, while developing improved efficiency at processing radioactive organic matter, creating sustainable food sources for human coastal communities, while supporting the recovery of aquatic ecosystems that serve as foundations for broader environmental restoration. The behavioral modifications that characterize successfully ghoulified animals include enhanced adaptability to changing environmental conditions, improved cooperation with other species, including humans, and developed learning capabilities that enable rapid adaptation to new challenges and opportunities as they arise in the slowly recovering world. The ecological roles that ghoulified animals fulfill in post-war environments often include functions that exceed those performed by their pre-war ancestors, with enhanced capabilities enabling them to serve as environmental monitors, ecosystem engineers, and biological bridges that connect isolated populations and habitats across contaminated landscapes. The medical applications that derive from studying animal ghoulification include insights into radiation resistance, enhanced healing capabilities, and extended lifespan mechanisms that may provide benefits for human medical treatment, while advancing understanding of the biological processes that enable successful adaptation to post-war conditions. The psychological impact of ghoulified animals on human communities includes both the comfort of familiar companionship and the reassurance that nature possesses remarkable resilience and adaptability that enables recovery from even the most severe environmental damage, providing hope that the world can heal from the wounds inflicted by nuclear warfare. The continuing evolution of ghoulified animal populations suggests that these creatures represent not fixed endpoints but ongoing experiments in biological adaptation that will continue producing new capabilities and characteristics as environmental conditions change and new opportunities emerge for beneficial mutation and enhancement. The success of animal ghoulification in preserving and enhancing desirable characteristics while eliminating vulnerabilities demonstrates that radiation can serve as a tool for biological improvement when applied under appropriate conditions to species that possess sufficient genetic flexibility to incorporate beneficial modifications while maintaining essential functions. These remarkable creatures serve as living proof that even in the darkest circumstances, life possesses sufficient creativity and resilience to find new forms of existence that transcend the limitations imposed by traditional biological constraints while maintaining the essential qualities that make different species valuable, members of the global ecosystem that continues to recover and evolve in response to humanity's greatest folly and nature's most remarkable triumph. As we reach the end of our comprehensive journey through the mutated menagerie of post-war America, we see that nature, in all its twisted glory, endures. From the smallest radroach to the mightiest deathclaw, each creature represents evolution's response to humanity's greatest folly. These beasts are not merely monsters to be feared, but living testaments to life's incredible adaptability and determination to survive. In the quiet moments between sleep and waking, remember that even in the darkest wasteland, life finds a way. The creatures we've chronicled tonight continue their eternal dance of survival, adaptation, and evolution, writing the next chapter of Earth's story in radioactive ink. They are the inheritors of our world, the children of atomic fire, and the guardians of tomorrow's wilderness. Rest now, knowing that somewhere in the wasteland, evolution marches on, creating wonders and terrors in equal measure. The great wheel of life turns still, powered by mutation, and driven by the simple, unstoppable will to endure. Sweet dreams, wanderer. The creatures of the wasteland watch over their domain while you sleep,